seeing. Straightforward is better. No equipment fees, no data caps, no price increase at 12 months. Live like a gagillionaire with AT&T Fiber. Limited availability in select areas. Visit att.com/hypergig for details.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco. Always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app.
Live from downtown San Francisco, this is 95.7 The Game.
And it is Warriors this week, and we welcome you in. John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason with you as always for the next 3 hours here. 888-957-9570. Whitey, as always, good to be with you, sir. And the Warriors, big win last night against the Knicks, a much-needed victory over the Knicks. And the story after the ball game, though, about a team meeting that took place yesterday morning at shoot-around as the Warriors were gearing up to face the Knicks. Elephants in the room discussed, and then the Warriors come out and play much better than at least they have in recent memory. And also Klay Thompson saying that Draymond Green was a focal point of that meeting. Is Draymond getting his leadership crown back with the Warriors, Whitey? Much to discuss, but good Saturday morning to you, my friend.
Yeah, great to be with you. I have to say, as far as the team meeting goes, mad props to whomever it was with the Warriors who decided that yesterday was the day for the team meeting. Now, I know that they hit a new rock bottom against the Suns, so you could say, well, they had no choice. But as you know, JD, Boach was a master of this. In pro sports, when it's time for the team meeting, whether it's players only or if it's the whole team, you got to make sure you have the team meeting right before a game that you are pretty confident you're going to win. Because if you have a team meeting and you get your asses kicked, all of a sudden you're going backwards again. So it was very wise. Again, I know some of it was because we just lost that game to the Suns. We got to deal with this. But that was a wise decision to have that team meeting yesterday before the Warriors took on the New York Stinks.
Well, and look, the Knicks came in 8-7. Yeah,
I know.
Right?
They played well on the road.
They had just won in Utah. And they had just won in Denver.
Yeah.
I will say this as far as the Knicks go, Whitey, and there's a lot to get to here for the next 3 hours. They are a good matchup in some ways for the Warriors because they don't really move the basketball on offense. They don't shoot the ball well at all, really, from 2 or especially 3. And teams that don't do that are easier to defend. And the Warriors' defense has been so problematic that in some ways, if the Warriors were going to get themselves recommitted on the defensive end, and it looked like that was a big part of the focus of this team meeting and the game last night, the Knicks were a nice opponent to have in that vein. You can D them up in ways that it's much more difficult to do against other opponents.
I know we've been talking here. You and I have been talking with the smartest listeners in radios for weeks for weeks here about how, wow, you can see what the Warrior problems are. The solutions are harder to find. But I was in for Damon this week a few days, so I got to talk with Coach Kerr. Ray Ratto and I interviewing Coach Kerr, and he made it clear that the way out of this, whatever this is, it starts at the defensive end. Coach Kerr made it clear that's our plan. As we try to figure out, what do? Do you could trade for somebody? It's pretty clear the coaches look at this and figure if we can start playing better defense, a lot of these things are going to take care of themselves. So, yeah, it was the Knicks took a lot of bad shots last night, a lot of bad shots, and the Warriors defense had a lot to do with that. You couple that with the fact that, as you said, Klay played so much better, and people are going to focus on the shooting, which is significant, but he was just taking better shots. If Klay's taking good shots and missing them, okay, it's when, like we saw against Phoenix, where he's taken so many bad shots that it's disrupting the offense. That, I'm sure, is one of the elephants in the room they discussed. So Klay shot the ball well, but also just played within the flow of the offense much better last night.
Yeah, I spent a good chunk of Warriors wrap-up last night trying to dissect what, and asking the listener, what would the elephants in the room be? And really, I think the elephants in the room were the top two things on my little note card that were with respect to.
Let me see that again.
What the Warriors did well. Yeah, you want to? Yeah, my little note card.
Yeah,
right
you've been busy on that. Yeah,
busy.
Right.
I even had to put a little on the back.
Wow.
And there was. Yeah, it was a busy night with the Warriors and the Knicks and everything coming out after the game. But the top two things I had on the note card were Klay Thompson, more patient, and the defense was much better, really, other than the fouls. I mean, that's still the Knicks got to the free throw line, 34 times, and were able to knock down 32 of 34. That was the only reason the Warriors didn't maybe win by 20 or 30 last night, was the fact that the Knicks were camped at the line. But the top two things that the Warriors did well, I feel like were the top two things that were the elephants in the room that were discussed. Like, hey, Klay, take better shots.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
Hey, Klay. And it's funny, it was having this conversation with Steiny on our Warriors Weekly podcast, just the fact that Klay Thompson doesn't ever have, and I think that the number that I used was a 7 of 15. Like, why can't it, if he could just have a 7 of 15 type of a game, that would be great. It doesn't have to be 7 for 20. It doesn't have to be 5 for 18 because you're trying to find it on a night you don't have it. It could be 5 for 12. It could be 6 for 13. And those nights are not going to kill you in the same way that some of these nights where Klay is just, as I've said over and over, almost trying to take 2 shots for every miss to show everybody that the miss isn't who he is anymore.
You're absolutely right. One of the things we were saying after the Suns game here on 95.7 The Game is that, all right, Klay could just, if he just took fewer shots, that alone would help. Now, you'd have to do a lot more than that. But to your point, if he just took fewer shots than he was taking against the Suns, that would have helped. Last night, he took really good shots. And I think that's an interesting point as well. Of course, this is all interrelated, the offense, the defense. But you look at the attempts last night, how more evenly distributed they were. Wiggins got 15, Klay got 16, Steph got 19, Poole took 17. Poole didn't shoot well, but the points, 20 for Wiggins, 20 for Thompson, 24 for Steph, and then 13 for Poole, 12 for JaMychal Green. That's the Warrior offense, and it's just a lot harder to guard when you're not sure who's going to end up taking the shot. So that was another real positive sign last night.
Yeah, 6 players in double figures. To my eye, and I meant to double-check this, and I didn't get a chance to, but I think last night was the first time that Steph, Klay, and Wiggins all had 20 or more in the same game, and it was relatively efficient. Now, Curry had a poor shooting night, although he's been shooting it better than anybody on a night-in, night-out basis, 9 of 19. But Wiggins and Klay, more even in the shot attempt department.
Yeah.
And knocking down a good percentage. A 3 of 8 from 3, I think you'll take from Wiggins. And you look at you look at Klay, 4 of 10. You know, maybe 4 of 10. You know, maybe 10's a little high. But if he's going to make 4 of them, and I mean that's 40%. That's right at the mark where you want if a guy is going to take 10 of them.
Yeah, and it's just, again, it's a sign that the offense is functioning and is efficient. When it was, I don't know what happened against the Suns, JD, and I don't mean to dwell on it because they won last night. And but that was something weird. Kurt talked about it Thursday. There was a weird vibe in the air for that game. Not to make excuses, but the whole thing was just weird from the Warriors standpoint.
No, and I was in Phoenix for the game, and I did pre and post from the arena there in Phoenix, and was in the pre and post game press conference with Steve Kerr. There was clearly something going on. Like, there was clearly something going on with respect to things that I think were bigger than just the play on the floor that needed to be addressed, aired out, whatever. If there was going to be a time for a team meeting, it would have been coming off of the Suns game. I know you say, and you're right, you want to do it where you have an opponent, but it almost feels like they could have been playing Milwaukee, with Giannis last night, and it wouldn't have mattered. They would have needed to have it. The hanging their head and feeling sorry for themselves, and just some of the things that Coach Kerr mentioned probably to you guys, but also in that post-game press conference, lacking fight. I mean, he even said there were things that he didn't want to discuss that he needed to get a handle on, whether it was, each player having their own individual personality that has to be balanced in the context of the whole team dynamic. I mean, it was deep, and it does make you think that that Phoenix game, which was so bad, and the Suns not having Chris Paul or Cam Johnson or Shamet or others, and to just let Cam Payne basically be Chris Paul and Devin Booker combined.
Yeah.
And just them to have their way to the tune of 130 and play so badly when Steph played so well individually. It just like that there was, and we had full lines on Warriors wrap-up Wednesday night from Phoenix. I mean, people were just angry about the way it was looking. And so I think to everyone's point, Whitey, that game in Phoenix the other night hit different. We'll see, because now the big question is, does any of this translate on the road? Because the Warriors are still a team that's 7-1 at home and 0-8 on the road, but they've got to see if they can do a lot of the things they did last night in a road game where they win it, and you could make the case they've got the perfect opponent tomorrow in Houston to do that. Although I'm reluctant, Whitey, to say that, because I was looking at the NBA standings, and the 4 worst teams in the NBA right now are the Rockets, Pistons, Hornets, and Magic. And the Warriors already have losses at Orlando, at Charlotte, and at Detroit here in the early going of the season. They've already lost to 3 of the 4 worst teams in the NBA on the road. Houston could be the 4th tomorrow, but let's see if the Warriors can't get this thing turned around. Yeah,
and the Warriors, one of only 3 teams now that hasn't won yet on the road, along with the Lakers and the Pistons.
Yeah, even Orlando won on the road, Whitey.
Yeah, I know. Without Paolo, right? I think they won on the road without Paolo. That was a little stunning Wednesday for a lot of reasons. And the fact that we all got to see it, those of us who watched on TV at one point, we saw Steve Kerr talking to the team and imploring the Warriors, the champion Warriors, to play together and play with more competitiveness. That was absolutely jaw-dropping. So when we talked to Coach Kerr the next day, I asked him, how long has it been since you've had to give that message to one of your Warrior teams? And he said, I've never had to do that before with one of these teams. And he said, but let me tell you, it was needed. I needed to tell him that. So to see them bounce back from that, really a positive sign. As we look at, is this team a championship team? I still think at some point they're going to have to, frankly, I think they're going to have to address the roster. And that's, teams do that. I'm not saying an overhaul, but the bench last night, again, there was a drop off there, but a really positive sign. And I'm really confident that they will take care of their business against a Rockets team that, they got their eyes on Wembanyama. Not the players, but as an organization, I don't think they're putting their best foot forward. So that first road win, JD, it's coming tomorrow in Houston.
He's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 888-957-9570. The phone lines are open. The Xfinity mobile text line is open as well. Same phone number, 888-957-9570. It's Warriors This Week here on 95.7 The Game, as we are with you until 1 o'clock. Warriors getting the win last night against the Knicks, off to Houston today, and then the Warriors will go at it with the Rockets tomorrow. Pelicans Monday, and then right back home for a couple surrounding the Thanksgiving holiday, and then right back out on the road for a couple to Minnesota and to Dallas to close out the month of November. We talked about the 6 players in double figures last night. JaMychal Green played better, and I think one of the things that is indicative of just how disconnected this team has been in some way is just the comments that Steve Kerr's made about JaMychal Green recently, essentially saying he didn't use him right initially and he needs to be playing the center spot. And I think there's been some maybe too much back and forth. Steve Kerr's going to tinker, but it feels like with the bench and the rotation and all of that, there's been a lot of, well, this guy needs to play, and I need to do better to play this guy. And then that guy plays, and he doesn't play well, and it's like, well, you want to make a change, and a little more consistency, I think, with some of the roles, whether it's the young players, whether it's a guy like JaMychal Green, and finding the right matchups for him. I do think there needs to be a little bit more of a steadying as far as that goes for the time being, rather than 4 or 5 games of one group and then 4 or 5 games of an next group, at least until this team gets on track. But regardless of that, I mean, JaMychal Green I think the solid games for him have been fewer and farther between. He had a nice game last night. That bodes well because he really is the glue. I think him and DiVincenzo and even Jordan Poole are the glue to the championship core and the young players that the Warriors want so desperately to play but can't necessarily play because they've been so effective. If those three are playing well in between, then I think it really allows the young players to relax and not have so much on their plate to where their contributions are more of a luxury instead of a necessity.
It's an interesting point you raised, because I was a little surprised that JaMychal Green was, at least based on the media reports, you were probably in the locker room, but he was one of the more outspoken players after the game about the elephants in the room in the team meeting, and I wouldn't have expected it. He's a new guy there, so that was interesting. So that does suggest that, to your point, that he's been a little unhappy with his role, but it appears that Coach Kerr is getting a sense now of what to do with the rotation. We're seeing basically 9, and then Kuminga played a little bit. I'll say this about the young guys, and I'm guessing that's one of the elephants in the room, is that some of the younger players have been wanting to play more. Dwayne Casey told his Pistons something after the game last night, and it applies to some of the younger Warriors if any of them are upset with their minutes. He said, "Don't count your minutes, make your minutes count." Now, a guy like JaMychal Green, it's a little different because he's a veteran. He comes here with expectations. But as far as any young players, if they in fact are, I can't get into my rhythm because I don't know when I'm going to play, those young guys are still proving themselves. So that's probably one of the elephants in the room, too. Don't count your minutes. Just make sure you make your minutes count.
888-957-9570. Let's get it started with Austin in San Jose here on this Saturday morning. Hey, Austin, how you doing?
Hey, fellas, happy Saturday. Always great to talk to you. Hey, what's going on, Whitey? Listen, good conversation. A couple observations, and I want to get your comments toward the end, JD, on your projections for the next 15. But my comments are JaMychal Green. I think he fills a role off the bench that they're going to have to figure out whether he's the guy or somebody else. Because you noticed last night, there were a couple times when the big men, after that first unit goes off, you need to have somebody inside that can finish at the rim, get some cheap two-pointers. You can't have everybody shooting three. Maybe a little bit of a physical presence inside, but more importantly, somebody knows how to play basketball. And I think the Warriors got to figure out who that guy is, whether it's JaMychal Green or they got to go get somebody. And Whitey, I think that's the area where they're going to have to maybe look at trade deadline if they intend to make a run. Because I don't see any of the rookies or any of the young guys being able to fill. That's just me. I watched my buddy, what's his name? Dante played better. My Villanova guy played better last night. I think he's going to have to continue to do that. He's been inconsistent, but that role is important. He rebounds. I like him. And then Poole, please, can we stop talking about Poole? He's got to become a better basketball player, guys. He's very one-dimensional. If he's not shooting the ball, what else does he do? I mean, we got to see him be a more complete basketball player like Klay showed us last night, the ability to shoot, but not just shoot, distribute the ball, get the ball to the right guy. And then, JD, finally, the next 15 games, because you're the guy that does all the projections, what do you think the Warriors' record is over the next 15? And what do you think is kind of the minimum they have to go in order to get back in this? Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate that. We'll get into that coming up here in the next segment. I'll look at the next 15 games a little more closely. It's funny, the Warriors had played so poorly to start this season that I really have not tried to get too far ahead of what does it have to be, although I will say it did feel like last night, and I mentioned this on the pregame show, it did feel like last night was kind of a must-win. And when you get a couple of games under 500, as the Warriors have, you really, tomorrow I feel like is a must-win. Like you gotta go get that one to get to 8 and 9, and look, they've been a different team at home compared to where they've been on the road. But once you start to slip to 500 or below, there are games that you just have to get because you aren't dealing yet really with any significant injuries on the season, and at some point you don't want to dig a hole. There are a lot of teams playing well in the Western Conference. It looks like there's the potential, and I know a lot of this flattens out over a season, but it really does look like there's the potential for maybe there to be 10 500 teams in the West, maybe 10, and I know, again, it does level out, and teams go cold and teams get hot, and the math of it makes it less likely that you could have that many unless it plays out a certain way. But I feel like there is more of a teams, say 6 or 7 even, to 10 or 11 could be really in a tight range of 45, 44 to maybe 39 or 40 wins for all of them. And that could really, like, not much of a difference, I guess, from maybe the 11th team to, like, the 7th or the 8th team.
I don't think it's ridiculous to suggest that at this point, and I know it's still early, and go back to last year where, at this time of year, people were looking at the Celtics and saying, that core, those guys, Brown and Tatum, they can't play together. They got to bust that up. And, of course, then January hits, and they took off, and they went to the finals. But we're almost 20 games in now, almost. And most people that, observe these things for a living will say, after 20 games, you get an idea. So, yeah, that's certainly the scenario you're describing, JD. It's not out of the question. We got a long ways to go, but, you're talking about Portland, Utah, Oklahoma City, teams like that. So far, they're playing really well. I'm getting a sense of deja vu when we talk about the Warriors in the front court, specifically the center position, because we know last year they were waiting for Wiseman to arrive and waiting for Wiseman. And remember, Bob Myers said late in the year, he said, well, maybe we would have done something if we'd known we wouldn't have James, but we thought he was going to come back. So JaMychal Green's played well as a backup center, but he's 6'9". So I'm wondering if that is an area that they could shore up the roster. I just think, as much as the Warriors have proven that you can play small, I just still think you'd like to have a big guy at the end of the bench. You'd like to have that size, and I think they thought Wiseman would be that guy, and he's not going to be for the foreseeable. So I agree with Austin. I would think that's one area that they're looking at. And with Poole, real quick, I know some people were saying, Poole against the Suns, he's passive aggressive. He doesn't want to shoot. 36 points to 2. I'm not willing to go that far yet. Maybe it's true, but to me, he's just still really inconsistent. And right now, that is still part of the Jordan Poole experience. He's just really, really inconsistent.
Yeah, and I do think going from starting lineup to bench has messed with him in some of these games. I mean, you really look at it as he started the 3, and he's been terrific in all 3. But then it's a matter of, all right, now you're going. It almost impacts 6 or 7 games, not just the 3 games.
Yeah.
That because he is so comfortable when he's in the starting lineup. But if Klay Thompson's going to play the way Klay Thompson played last night,
absolutely,
then Klay Thompson's not going anywhere. And if Klay Thompson can play the way that he played last night, you don't need to have the conversation about making a lineup change that was starting to pop up again because things were going so badly. Couple of quick thoughts here on JaMychal Green, and Steve Kerr had pointed out not only playing him at the backup 5, but also playing him with Draymond, so Draymond can find him around the basket a little bit more, not just have JaMychal Green be somebody that's going to stand in the corner and look to shoot threes. I was pretty adamant last year, and we talked about this a ton on this show, that the Warriors didn't need a big man last year, that they had enough and they had the capability to play small.
You were right.
And they would prefer to play small. I look at it differently this year because they're not as good a rebounding team as they were last year, and Otto Porter Jr. was a huge part of that. Mm-hmm. He really rebounded, and collectively the Warriors rebounded at a high enough level to offset it. And Porter, to me, playing bigger than he did, having Bielitsa as an option, even though he didn't always play a lot to stretch the defense. They don't have as much on the roster in terms of smaller players that can play big compared to last year. And for the time being, Whitey, they didn't have Wiseman last year, and for the time being, they don't have Wiseman this year, even if Wiseman's on the roster. So I think they would need to be more proactive in trying to add a big man, even if it is just a back end of the roster type, between now and the end of the season.
Look at what Sabonis did to the Warriors. What did he have? 22 rebounds. And you look at what Cleveland's bigs did to them. And I know the Warriors won.
Part of that is you can't have Anthony Lamb guarding them. Like that's
yeah.
And I get it. You want to go small, but like that's the example of. Maybe if Otto Porter's guarding him, it's a different story because Otto Porter was able to play bigger than he was. But, yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah.
That was really bad.
Even the Knicks last night, to my eye, fourth quarter, they started to chip away a little bit. And one of the ways they did that was by going inside and drawing fouls. So I just think it would be nice to have a big body available. And I'm sure that's something that the Warriors are looking at.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 888-957-9570. Warriors win last night over the Knicks. Does it translate on the road? And coming up, I'll answer Austin's question about the next 15 games. What do the Warriors have to do? And we'll try and figure out what the other elephants in the room that were discussed at this team meeting yesterday could have possibly been. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. It's Warriors This Week. We're off and running here until 1 o'clock on 95.7 The Game.
This is your time to cash in at Cash Creek Casino Resort. To rock and to roll. Over the hills and bluffs. Go all out or go all in. With 4 stars and rising stars. Now we do more than ever, so you can do as much or as little as you want. It's your time to cash in at Cash Creek Casino Resort.
AT&T Fiber presents a straightforward moment inspired by straightforward pricing.
And now we just cube the pancetta as such.
So what's on the menu tonight?
This carbonara I found online. It's fire. You gonna love it, Mom.
I hope you hold on to this AT&T Fiber, son. It's nice.
Yeah, you should settle down now that you're a gagillionaire.
Oh, I am. I finally found the one internet I've been looking for my whole life.
So, no more one-year stands?
No, I'm done with all that. With AT&T Fiber, there's no price increase at 12 months.
What about equipment fees?
Nope.
Those were never any good for you.
Exactly. But now, everything's completely straightforward.
Well, in the spirit of being straightforward, I never liked any of your old ones.
Me neither. Blah.
Y'all never told me that.
But we're being straightforward now, which feels good, yeah?
Yeah. Now let's get straightforward about that girl he's been seeing.
Straightforward is better. No equipment fees, no data caps, no price increase at 12 months. Live like a gagillionaire with AT&T Fiber. Limited availability in select areas. Visit att.com/hypergig for details.
Everything, our farm, our stand, our pop-up shop, it really all started when we discovered the benefits of local, raw honey for our family.
And then we decided to turn it into a business.
We were looking for something to help us get up and running.
So we got the Chase Business Complete Banking Account.
It's more than a bank account. It comes with Quick Accept, which lets us take card payments anytime, anywhere in the U.S. using the Chase mobile app. Plus, we get same-day deposits at no extra cost. For us, it's more than honey. It's about sharing a little sweetness with the world.
Get the Chase Business Complete Banking Account with the essentials you need to help get your business going. Learn more at chase.com/business-complete-banking. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Quick Accept is not available in U.S. territories. Enrollment required. Usage subject to approval. Same-day deposits available for payments before 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday to Friday. Fees and rates apply for checking and processing. Limitations and restrictions apply. Participants compensated. Merchant services provided by Payment Tech LLC and WePay Inc. Subsidiaries of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank and a member FDIC.
November is a great time to get a new TV. Now that the top-rated brands like Samsung, LG, and Sony are at the lowest prices of the year. With Black Friday deals available, what more could you want? How about better than Black Friday? Before you click, you should call Video Only to see how you can go lower than Black Friday. That's right, the best TVs at better prices. Check out Video Only before you buy, or you'll be sorry.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
It's Joe Shasky from The Morning Roast. And if you're an independent restaurateur or are starting a brand new business, then you gotta know about my friends at Trimark. Trimark, making independent restaurateurs' dreams come true in Northern California for over 55 years. Whether you're designing your next restaurant or you need equipment and supplies, this is where Trimark comes in. They do it all. And what's most important to them is being a partner to their business customers. Visit TrimarkWest.com. That's TrimarkWest.com.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code JOY at checkout. That's harrys.com, code JOY. Enjoy.
Black Friday is starting early at Fasteners Inc. Tool Outlet, and there's no better place to shop for all your power tools. Grab free batteries with tons of Makita products and many more of the year's hottest deals November 21st through the 28th. 2897 Monterey Highway or online at fastenersinc.net.
We addressed the elephants in the room. We had that hard conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. We had that conversation. It was much needed. And I think it got people more focused and locked in into what we had to do as a team.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
JaMychal Green last night post-game revealing the Warriors had a team meeting yesterday before the game at shoot-around, and addressing the fact that elephants in the room needed to be discussed. The Warriors went out and played like a team that had opened the air a little bit last night, and players doing different things. I just keep coming back to Whitey as I hear that, and it just rings very loudly. Did somebody tell Klay Thompson in front of the whole team, stop shooting the ball every single bleeping time you get it, like you're trying to... You're trying to hunt, for an NBA record.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if that did not happen. We all saw, Draymond slumping when Klay was taking so many shots, and Klay at the end of that game, and I know the game was already decided. The end of the Phoenix game when Klay was still in, and he would just take the ball, dribble down court, and shoot. It was embarrassing. As he, and you can understand what he's going through, but as he's trying to, prove to everyone and to himself that I still got it. And then last night, seeing him just make the extra pass, drop it off, then get it back. It was a relief. I think more than anything last night had to be a relief for Steve Kerr and the Warriors, who've been trying to figure out how do we get Klay through this. And it just got to the point where they finally had to, as an organization, say, Klay, no, we can't keep doing that. So, yeah, one of the elephants in the room addressed last night. I'm curious what the other ones were, but I think that had to be first and foremost. Even look, JD, like some of his teammates on the bench were reacting when Klay was taking all those shots at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it was one of the, like, dude, you're killing us. There was a dude, you're killing us vibe to it, and I think everybody wants Klay to be a part of things, and I think everybody believes, and look, Steve Kerr said it, and I thought that was one of the adamant things he was about, after the game against Phoenix, was he said, Klay's still got it. Like, he almost defiantly, Klay's still got it, and it felt more like hope than belief, the way that he said it, but he was not going to let everyone go down the rabbit hole again with the notion that maybe he's not the same player, and that's really irrelevant. To me, and we've talked about this so much, Whitey, to me it's not about whether Klay gets back to what he was. It's, can Klay Thompson play like he did last night? And it was abundantly clear that he was making a more conscious effort to not take every single shot that was presented to him. There were a couple of quick ones, but it was much more within the range of normal than it had been, and there were times where you could almost see him thinking the game through. Like, I want to take this one, I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to drive by this guy as he closes out, and then I'm going to move the ball. I mean, he made the extra pass, 5 or 6 different times last night, and every time it seemed the ball really hummed and moved around, and the Warriors were trying to swing it. And on a couple of those, the ball came back to him, and he was able to knock down a better shot than the original shot that probably in any other game this season he would have cast off on and probably clanked.
Yeah, right. And Klay is always going to take some quick shots. That's Klay in transition. He's going to take some and he's going to make some, but still he was taking far too many and disrupting the offense. So to see that happen last night, and it had to be a relief to everyone who was telling him, dude, you got to play in the flow of the offense, let the game come to you a little bit. It was a relief because they all knew they were right, but still to see it last night was just, yes. And Klay acknowledged it. It's like, oh, yeah, I see. And the ball came back to me. I'm glad that at least for now, we don't have to deal with that debate about who should be starting, Klay or Poole, because, there was no way the Warriors, with everything Klay was going through, no way they were going to, you're going to have to come off the bench now. But even if they did, and I was not in favor of that, but even if they did, it would only address part of the issue. Klay has to play better, whether he's starting or not wasn't really the issue to me. The issue to me was Klay has to play better and not be distracted by everything he's going through. He can't let that become detrimental to the offense. And last night, it was not, and that was a great sign.
He has to understand that the standard for what is a good game is just lower than maybe it used to be. Like, it doesn't have to be. It felt like every night he was trying to go for 50. And, he was trying to go for the wow game where everybody says he's back and he can come out and flip the bird to everybody that said that he isn't the same. And it doesn't matter. Like, he could have scored 40 last night. That would not have meant he was back. Like, as much as because it's a matter of consistency. It's a matter of can you give him 8 of 16 a bunch? And you know what? The 40s are still going to be there. I think they're going to be there less frequently than they've been at different points of his career because age is undefeated. But his line last night, the Warriors are going to win a lot of games with him doing that compared to what we've seen. Because his 8 of 16 last night, Whitey, I feel like would have been 7 for 20 at different points because of the shots that he didn't take and passed up and the other ones that he got back. He turned a 7 of 20 into an 8 of 16 just by changing his mentality a little bit.
He deserves most of the credit for that, but his teammates, his coaches deserve credit too. One of the surprising, if not stunning things to come out of the Suns game was how pointed Steph's comments were after the game when Steph talked about players. We need to not worry about stats. And he was talking about Klay. It was like, oh, my goodness. And to everyone's credit, they figured it out, at least for one night. Now the question is, if he's next game he has where he's not shooting well, how does he respond to that? We'll see. And then also, you talked about this last week, JD, as you have the back-to-back coming up with Houston and New Orleans. This is just kind of an offshoot of the whole Klay thing. Which game do you sit him? I mean, I was saying last week, just play the first game, have him play the first game and figure it out. But obviously you figure you could probably beat Houston when you're at less than full strength. You maybe want to be at full strength for New Orleans. So that also becomes an issue here as we get ready for another back-to-back.
I wouldn't play that game, and I wonder if the Warriors are going to do something similar in the Pelicans game as they did the last time they were in New Orleans, just the way the schedule fell, because that's going to be
just play the first one and get
9 nights. And so I could see them almost go all in on the Houston game, and that is the first game of the back-to-back, so that's the game that traditionally Klay had been playing in the first game, and then just resting in the second game. To me, you can't even mess with it if you're planning on potentially giving a lot of the veteran players the game off in New Orleans for a second time here in the last few weeks before you come back home. And the games are still going to be coming rapid fire. But if there was a game that would be the developmental game, unfortunately for the fans in New Orleans, who they'd see it 2 times in about 2.5 weeks. That would be the game, just the way that the schedule falls. And maybe the Warriors don't do that. Maybe they say, and I think how the game is played tomorrow dictates some of whether the Warriors do that or not. If they can go in there and comfortably win tomorrow and not have to overtax to do it, then maybe the veteran players say, no, I want to play. Like, we've had a bunch of rest here coming off of that trip where they played, I think, 2 games in 8 days or something like that. Like, it's go time. Let's try to go win at New Orleans on Monday night and get to 500 at that point.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of reasons why you just go after the Rockets game. You're still under 500. You don't have the luxury of fiddling with things right now. You played well. You want to build on that, and you want to get that first road win. So I could see in different circumstances, maybe it'd be tempting to go, we could probably beat Houston at less than full strength, but right now they don't have that luxury. You got to beat the Rockets, and then you're right. If you bury them, maybe you have the option of playing some of your veterans more minutes against New Orleans than you would have.
Yeah, they can't play that game because they've already lost to Detroit, Charlotte, and Orlando, who are 3 of the worst 4 teams in the league, along with Houston in their building. And so you can't, like, it's to me, you got to treat tomorrow like it's Game 6 of the finals. Mm-hmm. Just to get it and get to.
And don't you think it's important, JD? Don't you think it's important, again, not only to win that game, but to continue to do all the things that you did well last night?
Yeah, because I've been going back and forth, Whitey, the last really 2 weeks, I guess, since they came off the trip at 3-7, and they were and just kind of going through game by game. They come home, they play Sacramento. That's the game where the Kings were ahead most of the game, and the Warriors did play better in the second half, but probably shouldn't have won that game, to be perfectly honest. And that was the game where Klay fouled Herter and they didn't call it. Whatever. That kind of thing happens. But they didn't really play great in that game. They had the 3 days off. They played much better defensively against Cleveland. Does that so they had won 2 in a row. Does it translate? And then the next Sacramento game that the Warriors lost, other than the first quarter, it was essentially a pickup game or a Drew League game. So they got beat. And so, all right, you didn't, like, the defense was against Sacramento that game as bad as it had been all year. Are they figuring it out or not? San Antonio, they do. And I think there's been a little bit of some opponent specific stuff here too. When they've played San Antonio, all of a sudden they can defend. When they play the Knicks, all of a sudden they can defend. And you want to see it and you need to see it. But you go to Phoenix in between those 2 games, and the defense is as bad as it's been all year. So there is a little bit of the opponent and kind of back. Like it hasn't been consistent enough, Whitey, to where I'm looking at this thing and thinking, all right, they've got it dialed in any way, shape, or form. They have to go out and prove it as they did last night, and continue to prove it in Houston, and really continue to prove it over this stretch of the next, say, 15 to 20 games leading into the holiday.
Doc Rivers said about the Warriors years ago when the Warriors were dominating, and I know they won the championship last year. He said the Warriors show you their offense, they beat you with their defense. So, yeah, as Steve Kerr has said, the way out of this, it starts at the defensive end. The key question then is it just a matter of us being focused? We have to talk more on defense, which, by the way, is I get scared when I hear teams talk about that, because sometimes that's just code for we can't guard anybody. And bad defensive teams are always talking about, we just need to communicate more. My point is, with the Warriors, we know they have some good defensive players, but are the defensive issues things that are caused by people learning the system, or do they just need better defenders? We don't know that yet, but we do know, as I said earlier, that the quickest path to improvement is getting better at the defensive end. We did see some of it last night.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Phone lines open. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game. It's Warriors this week. Now, our buddy Austin in San Jose had called Whitey and said, JD, what do you got for the next 15 games? And I was looking around at it, and I'm a little reluctant to do it. But as this team they got a lot of tough games coming up over that stretch.
What does that take us to, about mid-December, the next 15 games?
Yeah, it's Austin asked for 15. There's actually 17 between now and Christmas. So the Warriors on Christmas, it begins a long homestand. It's actually the Warriors are going to go from December 10th until Christmas, December 25th, without playing a home game. So really 2 weeks and a day without playing a home game. And then after that, they have a 7-game home. Actually, it looks like an 8-game homestand,
right,
going all the way through January the 10th.
Got some bad teams coming in on that homestand.
Yeah, so that to me, but that starts with Christmas. So there's 17. So rather than I kind of went through the 17 because there's a long road trip mixed in there at Milwaukee, at Indiana, at Philly, at Toronto, at the Knicks, at Brooklyn, leading up to the Christmas holiday. So a long trip there. What, a 6-game trip there over really a couple of weeks. So I'm looking at it as those 7. Can you go 10-7? Like and there are not 10 locks among that group. And just reading that road trip out loud at the beginning, at Milwaukee, no picnic. At Indiana, that's one you'd have to get, really, when you look at Philly, at Toronto, no picnic there. At the Knicks, Warriors have been all right against the Knicks, at least we saw last night. And then at Brooklyn, who knows? Can you split that trip somehow? I do think there's probably a pathway to 3 wins on that trip, but can you go in, say, the other 14 games at that point? If you're 3-3 in those, can you pick off some wins in those other 14 games to the tune of, I don't know, maybe 9-5, something like that, and then you're in good shape.
What do you think the road problem has been? And this also gets back to the whole, what are the elephants in the room? It's not hard to go back and look at some of these road losses and imagine that ball bounces differently here or there and they win 1 or 2. But I know Steve Kerr said does defensive issues, that's the root of our problems on the road. But you've seen this, you've watched this team up close for many, many years. What do you see as the number one thing that has resulted here in so far no wins on the road?
Bad defense. I think young players typically play worse on the road, and the Warriors had been, at least on that Eastern trip at the beginning, hell-bent on saying that they were going to play their young players, and I think as time went on, they figured that we can't play the young players as much as they want to. I think the core veterans, though, bear some of the responsibility for that, because I do think that
there's a failure to execute down the stretch in some of those games.
Yeah, that's part of it, but I think they also wanted to coast in some of those games. Like, I think there are games as a championship contending team, and the Warriors have been more, I think, immune from this than other teams have been throughout time. But I think a lot of times championship caliber teams want to go into somebody else's building and withstand the storm and just kind of exchange baskets. And if it's 115 to 115 with a few minutes to go, you make a couple defensive plays, you execute, and you walk out of there with a close win. And the Warriors did that in a lot of these games and then got beat down the stretch. So I think you can focus on getting beat down the stretch, fair, as you mentioned. But to me, it's they haven't been real purposeful in the first 3.5 quarters. They've allowed a lot of these bad teams to get rolling and hang in the game, to where in those final 6 minutes, they're a lot more confident than if you had gone in there and just tried to step on them in the first 3 quarters of the game. That kind of a killer instinct earlier in some of these games just hasn't been there. And when it has been, the bench guys and the younger guys have given it all up too. So it's been a little bit of everything, Whitey.
You go back to, might have been as early as the loss in Detroit, and I know Coach Kerr was bemoaning a lack of urgency. And I'm sure for some of the players and for a lot of fans, like, urgency, it's awfully early for that. But I think you're right. When you look at how wide open the West appears to be, these games are probably more important than the Warriors thought they were going to be right now. I mean, it looks like we could really have a free-for-all for these final playoff positions. And I know we have a long ways to go. I don't think that, to me, the loss to Phoenix, to me, it put the lie to the notion that this team as it is, they'll be fine. Now, I know I could be wrong. Maybe they will reverse course. I don't think this team is currently constituted as just going to at some point go, boop, all right, they're on their way. They're going to be a 3 seed. We'll see. I think they're going to need help at some point. I think that they're already looking at ways to address that. The point is, and I think you've made this point, these these games are significant, even though it's early. Like you got November game at Houston on a Saturday. Yeah, but these are really important games for the Warriors.
Needs to be a win.
Yeah, because
that's what it is.
Yeah, and they're especially important right now because you actually have a losing record and you're trying to climb yourself back into some kind of position of stability in terms of the larger playoff race, even though it's early in the year.
And the good news for the Warriors is the 4 seed right now in the West is 9-6, and so you're 2.5 games behind the 4 seed.
Sure,
right? It is really jumbled up. I mean, 10-5 is the best record in the conference right now, and it's Portland and Utah's right there with them at 11-6, and those are 2 teams that I think were projected to be. Utah was projected to be a bottom 5 team in the Western Conference, and I think Portland may have been right there with them, if not slightly above. I mean, I think there were some people that thought Portland could be maybe 9 or 10 in the West, but to have those 2 teams be playing at the level that they are, that actually bodes well, I think, for the contenders because they would be due to drop off and have teams be able to jump them over the long haul of the season.
JD, I got a confession to make watching the Nets with that big win over Portland a couple nights ago. When I first turned that on and I saw, Portland had their PDX city jerseys. When I first saw, I was like, I have no idea what team that is. PDX, I know it's not the Suns. It took
me a minute. It's the airport code.
Yeah. I understand, but it did, and they were wearing a different color. I think they were green or something. But it took me a few seconds to I have no idea what team that is. So some of these different jerseys can be a little disorienting, especially when there's a PDX for Portland. I'd never seen that before. But anyway, that was a big win for the Nets.
Yeah, that was surprising to me, and the abbreviation. And I've spent a lot of time going up to Portland over the years with the Warriors playing them so much that you get familiar with that.
I figured that. Yeah.
You learn your airport codes, your airport abbreviations. And that's one where that's the PDX.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
So they're taking advantage of that. Looking at a couple of things here, because I'm right there with you as far as the game against Phoenix. I was hell bent on, all right, this team ain't it. As it's, they're going to have to work really hard with this group to be top 6 is more the way I put it. I top 4, top 3. I mean, we'll see. But to me, it's a matter of what can you do now to try and fix it. And I think there's really were 2 things that I could came to mind with it. And one was you got to, at a minimum, get more out of Klay Thompson, whether that means you move him to the bench and move Poole into the starting lineup, or you have a conversation that it sounds like Draymond was willing to have with Klay. We'll get more on that coming up at the top of the hour as Anthony Slater reported on it as well. But it's get more out of Klay or make a change there. The other thing is look to move one of the younger players. And I think that's where, if you were going to look to move one of the younger players, with James Wiseman getting sent down, we haven't mentioned that yet on the program.
Isn't that amazing? That's in the back burner, the way the team's been playing. Oh, yeah, they sent Wiseman down. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I think that was it. That was as telling on Monday night as the Steve Kerr press conference was on Wednesday night, where it just felt like, all right, this team's having some internal issues right now.
Mm-hmm.
The way that came about with him not playing at all until they were up 41 against the Spurs, and then just he's just going to go down, and he's going to go down for an extended period of time. It was really jarring to hear in that moment. Like it almost was like the Warriors were a little bit at a loss for the first time as to even what to do with Wiseman, given the way that he's played, and their just reluctance to even want to put him on the floor until they're up 41. And then wouldn't you know, for him, the Spurs score 12 straight points when he goes in up 41. He was a minus 12 in like 2.5 minutes.
I know. The poor guy.
Not all his fault, but just a bad look for him when that's been a major part of the problem.
Yeah, I don't know where that goes. I honestly think the best case scenario for everybody at this point would be he goes there, he's dominant enough where another team says, we would like that guy, and the Warriors can get something of use to him? Because I don't see how he's going to be a good fit for the Warriors and what they want out of their centers. Maybe that'll happen, but it just seems like he has in mind one way to play, and it's not the way the Warriors want their centers to play. Otherwise, you're right. The way you put it, they're at a loss. It's like, we don't know what else to do. Are you going to have them go down there and work on the things that you want your centers to do? Or they're just going to have them go down there and play basketball. So I think this may be the end of the line with James Wiseman and the Warriors.
It's very different as to going and asking a guy like Jordan Poole to go down and play in the G League and get his game right, because essentially you would ask Poole in the G League to do the exact same things that you would want him to do with the Warriors. Run a team full of lesser players and look to dominate.
Yeah.
And get your confidence, and the ball's going to be in your hands a ton. Just go get after it. Shoot it as much as you want. All of that. With a big, it's different because, one, you've got a lot of young players down there that are trying to get theirs that aren't necessarily going to want to be willing to get James Wiseman the rock. And two, you don't want James Wiseman to be getting the ball and looking to go to work and isolate and dominate and play one-on-one, because that's not what you want him to do when he's back here with the big club. But I think at this point now they're so worried about his confidence and how bad everything's gotten that they do not mind him going down and just playing and trying to do it even in a way that maybe doesn't help the team if he were back playing with the big club.
Here's a note on Wiseman. I don't know if you've seen this, JD, and consider the source. It's an unnamed NBA coach talked to Heavy Sports, and here was the quote from this unnamed coach on Wiseman. Quote, he has looked like he's in over his head. You can't have him on the floor with Draymond because they get real easy to guard with them together. You can't have him out there with a big role with the second unit because he's not good enough to carry that group. What do you do with him? I don't think they know, so he's going to go down there because at least he'll be on the floor. So interesting that if that is, in fact, the view of another coach, but it's really nothing that we can't already see and don't already know. The most interesting aspect of that, to me, is, as you said, it looks like the Warriors right now are kind of at a loss of exactly what to do with him.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 1 hour in the books. 888-957-9570. We'll continue the conversation as the Warriors slowly try to get themselves on track. More details from what some of the elephants in the room were. We'll get into that coming up next here on 95.7 The Game.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
Where do Black Friday deals come with happy holiday feels? Lowe's, actually. Save on holiday decor like 1-quart poinsettias was $2.98, now $1.98. And holiday living 100-count mini string lights was $3.98, now $2.98. Find unbeatable deals on top brands like a Craftsman 20-volt drill kit for $59, was $79. Black Friday is now. Get the deals while you can at Lowe's. Home to any possibility. Offers valid through 11/23. Poinsettia offer in-store only. Selection varies by location. Limited 8 per customer. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii while supplies last.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
With car prices at an all-time high, our donors are now getting highest receipts ever. Donate at carsforkids.org, and your car can be picked up tomorrow.
Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
O'Reilly! Cleaning your fuel system can help your engine run better and improve gas mileage. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts and pick up a bottle of Chevron Techron Fuel System Cleaner. On sale now. Buy one, get one free, plus double O rewards points. Get more fuel-saving tips from the professional parts people at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. He's the best interview in the Bay Area.
Splish Splash. Coach, are you taking a bath?
Can you hear a little water in the background?
Yeah! He's a 9-time NBA champion.
Not 5, not 6, not 7.
And he's on with Damon and Ratto every single week during the NBA season.
Wow.
It's Warriors head coach Steve Kerr on 95.7 The Game. Presented by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet only from Xfinity.
Black Friday is coming, and that's the smart time to shop for a top-rated TV from Samsung, LG, or Sony. But why wait? You can get those Black Friday TV deals right now at Video Only, and then enjoy Thanksgiving with your new TV. Still want to wait? Then how about better than Black Friday deals? The top-rated TVs at stupid low prices. Check out Video Only now before the rush, or you'll be sorry.
Homeowners are choosing the beauty of Milgard Trinsic Vinyl featured at Dolan's. Narrow frames, the contemporary look, the color choices, perfect white and tan, and an array of custom exterior colors. And that's only the beginning. The innovative Smart Touch window locks exceed California's rigorous forced entry codes, plus energy efficiency for comfort. Discover Milgard's vinyl benefits in the Ideas section at dolanlumber.com.
Football season is here. The new Odyssey app lets you stay connected to your NFL team, your station, your shows. Follow your favorite stations and come back again and again. Get real-time updates on everything you care about. Miss your show? Jump back to their awesome Rewind feature. The Odyssey app is NFL football. Live and on demand. Wherever you are, whenever you want. And did we mention it's all free? Download the Odyssey app today.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code JOY at checkout. That's harrys.com, code JOY. Enjoy.
Here's to Prilosec OTC. Just one pill each morning and no heartburn all day. My holiday hero.
Prilosec OTC. One pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
For 25 years, Buy-Right Market in San Francisco has partnered with purveyors of deliciousness to bring you local food that adds a dash of unique to every meal and celebration. Hi friends, this is Jamie, Buy-Right's head of product. And this season, whether you're planning an elaborate meal, watching the game, heading to a friend's, or cozying up for a night in, Buy-Right will help you savor what matters most. Pre-order your holiday meals at buyrightmarket.com or stop by and discover something unique for yourself. Gather, share, and enjoy with Buy-Right.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Very constructive meeting. Draymond definitely held the floor, and he's such a great motivator. So we all responded very well, and just looking forward to keep starting a new win streak.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Hour number 2, John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. It's Warriors This Week, 888-957-9570. We're with you until 1 o'clock, talking all things Dubs. Klay Thompson there addressing, and we'll hear a little bit more from Klay coming up in this segment, Whitey, but Klay addressing the team meeting held yesterday after the Warriors got beat in Phoenix and leading up to the game that the Warriors ultimately won last night against the Knicks, 111-101. JaMychal Green had addressed the fact that elephants in the room were discussed, and then Klay Thompson referencing the fact that Draymond was a key speaker in this meeting. Is Draymond getting his leadership back on with this team? Is he reemerging as a leader after the Jordan Poole punch?
Of course he is. By the way, do you know, I must confess, I'm not certain. I've been trying to figure this out from what's been written about the meeting. I can't tell. Was it a players-only meeting, or was Kerr, any coaches also participating in this?
Yeah, I think it was everybody. I don't think it was a players only meeting.
Right, because a team meeting would imply, that the coaches were involved. Yeah. I think so, to answer your question. And you mentioned the punch. How big of an elephant was that amongst the elephants in the room? My guess, JD, was that the punch, it was awful. In no way, shape, or form am I trying to minimize it. But I think the punch probably reflected things that were already going on, that there were dynamics that were already going on, rather than the punch started anything. I'm sure it made things worse, but that would be my guess. My guess is that it's not like things were fine and then, boo, there was a punch and, now we got problems. I'm guessing that punch came from the fact that there were already some issues involving money and Poole and his contract and the younger players and the veterans. I asked Coach Kerr this week if there's a disconnect between, the young players that want to play more but aren't playing well enough to play more, and the veterans who've made it clear publicly that they want to play with other veterans. And, he said, no, that has nothing to do with it. But I think that does have something to do with it. But to answer your question, Draymond coming out at a time when the team needed it, that's true leadership. We'll see, if that puts all the other issues aside for the foreseeable. But Draymond did what leaders do last night.
For me, it's a matter of the Warriors almost can't function, I feel like, if Draymond can't be a leader. And that was the biggest worry potentially about the punch, is the fact that, if he can't be a leader anymore because his voice doesn't carry any weight, or he's afraid to express it in a manner that he had in the past, then, what do you have left at that point? Like, if he's completely neutered from being able to have that voice, then the whole thing can be cooked. So I think if he is reemerging now as one of the leaders of this team, and it shows that they're moving past what had happened and some of that awkwardness, I think that bodes really well for the Warriors as things move forward.
Yeah, I think so. Draymond, some were criticizing Draymond for the game Thursday, saying he wasn't giving his best effort. I don't know.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't.
So
in Phoenix? He didn't in Phoenix.
Yeah. So that obviously was part of it. I don't know. There's resentment amongst the players with their own agendas. Who knows exactly what's going on? But that was obviously a very positive thing, the meetings that they had last night. And for this team to function, not only does Draymond have to do things on the floor, lead the defense, make good passes, be somewhat efficient on offense, he also has to be a leader. That's the construction of this team. So maybe that's been part of the problem. But I think last night, hopefully he reasserted himself in that role, and that's what his teammates need him to be going forward.
888-957-9570. That is the phone number to give us a call or shoot us a text. More text messages coming up here. It's JD and Whitey, Warriors This Week. Let's hear a couple of cuts from Klay Thompson, because he addressed the meeting and he addressed the film that he was watching as well. Here is that clip with the question.
You say you just watch film on the Phoenix game, and I guess every single game I play. So yes, the Phoenix game. Yeah. What did you see that I guess you felt like you really needed to correct? got great looks early, but might have rushed a few rather than swinging the ball and getting a really easy one, not cutting with enough force. And I thought tonight I did that better, just cutting off the ball and being patient. And when you make the easy ones early, the hard ones go in later.
And there were a number of different times last night where, as we talked about in the first hour of the show, Klay turned down shots. I counted maybe as many as 5 different times where I thought he noticeably did not take a shot that he had been taking previously and move the ball.
Yeah, and sometimes when a player passes up shots, we all know this from watching or if you've played, player passes up shots, sometimes that can be disruptive. But when Klay last night, when he'd get the ball and make the decision to drop it off, it kept the offense humming. So my guess is that was maybe the main point of the meeting last night. Again, going back to the Phoenix game when you could see players visibly reacting. Last year when Klay came back, we knew that we talked about it on the show. You could see that, wow, he's kind of hunting shots and it's not helping. And then he kind of worked his way out of that. And I think this year, teammates, it just was something that had to be dealt with. It had to be the biggest elephant in the room based on how much it hurt them against the Suns. At Klay, you can't play. This isn't how we play. This isn't how you play. And we can't win this way. So to their credit, it looks like for at least one night, they figured it out. As I said, I think the big test is going to be, all right, Klay had a pretty good shooting night last night. So it was easier to, all right, I'm going to drop it off here. How's he going to react if he has a night where the shot isn't falling? Is he going to play like he did last night or start hunting shots again?
Well, that's the key. The key is if he's 0 for 2 or 0 for 3 to start, does he start trying to force his way out of it, which is something that he's clearly done. It's been, I missed 2. Now I need to make my next 3.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm having a really bad shooting night, and I want to get that. I want to be 3 for 5 and not 0 for 2. So I'm going to take the next 3 shots because I got to get up to 3. It felt, and look, maybe I'm dead wrong on this, but it felt almost like he had the, you talk about guys counting their stats and things like that. It felt almost like he was doing that a little bit.
I know. And I think the Warriors bent over backwards to accommodate him in that regard because of everything he's been through and everything he's contributed to the team. We all know that. But it just came to a head Thursday night. It got to the point where someone, and Draymond, give him credit, and his other teammates, because some said it the night of the game, they just had to tell him, we can't do this anymore. We're not doing this now. And it looks like he received that message. How does his shot look different to you?
I thought last night it looked like he got more lift than he had been.
Yeah.
I thought he was almost trying to. And again, I don't know this, and I don't believe it was asked, but watching his shot last night, it looked as if he was trying to jump higher.
It had gotten a lot flatter, huh? Yeah. Shami's gotten flatter, and obviously if he's not getting the lift, that's going to happen. I think he takes more contested shots. Some of those leaners from the baseline, I think he takes more of those, whereas before it was just catch and shoot. That ball was away, and he always seemed like he was open. So, that's another good sign that last night the shot looked better as well.
Inability to finish too at the inside has been something that I think with maybe the athleticism, because there's times where he's driven to the basket and he just can't finish.
Yeah,
and
he did last night. Yeah,
and I think that's something that has been a little bit of a tell there. Let's hear a little bit more from Klay post game as the question was about the players meetings and if the team meetings are useful.
They can be very useful, and we thought that this morning was an incredible just time of growth for the whole team, and some early season adversity is right in front of us, and what's most important about that is how we respond, and I thought we responded very well tonight, and we played that Warriors brand of basketball that has made us the best team of the decade.
So they did respond, and again, I just, beneath the surface here, Whitey, when you put the two together, and I mean, the meeting that's been discussed, and the way that the vibe was in Phoenix the other night and some of the comments that came out of that game and frankly, players being visibly frustrated with each other in the game against Phoenix. Like you could see it in the building. I've talked to people that watch the game on TV and you could see it. Like it was just a group that was ticked off at each other. And if the air needed to be cleared, I think the time to do it was exactly when they did it.
Mm-hmm. I think that as long as everybody still has the same common interests, if everybody still wants to win above everything else, then they'll figure this out. If there are still other agendas, whatever they may be, it sounds like Klay's other agenda is one that you could understand, and that it's not going to be an issue because he sees, we want to win, and okay. If there are other players, younger players who want to play more, or if Poole has an agenda he wants to start, I have no reason to think that is the case. But if that is the case, then we're going to continue to have issues. But this is a real test of, I know this is cliche, JD, but this is a test of the Warrior culture. And to me, culture it's just everyone being on the same page. I may not like you, I may not appreciate this about you, but I know I have to do this with you because we want to win. And I think that started to splinter a little bit. And we know it did when you have Steph and Kerr talking about how we have to come together. So last night showed that it looks like everybody's still going to be on the same page here, but we'll see.
Well, for how long does it last is the question. Anytime there's a team meeting, because the one thing we know about good teams and really, for the most part, bad teams, because bad teams typically are having more team meetings because they've got more internal issues. But anytime there is a team meeting to that point, the question is, and I think at times it's also how, if a coach gets fired, coach or manager gets fired, the energy changes for a little bit. Maybe a team plays a little better for a handful of games, but does it last for one game? Does it last for 5 games? Does it last for 10 games? Typically, things go back to the way they were at some point, unless there is a more legitimate commitment. It's fair to ask, all right, everybody said the right things, and the elephants in the room were addressed, and it looked better last night, but for how long does it last if this team doesn't start to stack some wins up over this next 15 to 17 game stretch? Hell, just over the next week. I think 50. I know Austin said, JD, give me your next 15. And I was a little paralyzed by it because I'm thinking 15, this team's played 16 to this point, and I haven't been able to figure them out.
Yeah, let's just get through this weekend. We got a back-to-back.
Let's win at Houston tomorrow. Let's see if they can win at Houston and get a 1 in the road win column.
Right. It's funny, if you listen to any national coverage of the Warriors right now, everybody is assuming, and maybe they're right. I don't think so, but maybe they're right. Everyone says, well, that punch that's still having an effect. I'm sure, it's not something you just forget, and Coach Kerr called it the biggest challenge we've had. As I said earlier, I think that was more a symptom of other things going on than anything that has caused problems. And it doesn't appear that Green and Poole have an issue. Of course, you can't tell from the way they play, but JD, I know that was something that obviously caused some cracks here. I think they're irreparable. I don't think that's one of the bigger issues right now as a fallout from the punch. Maybe I'm 100% wrong. What do you think?
No, I hadn't noticed it manifest itself on the court at any point, and I'd been looking for it. But again, that's an incident to where maybe everything looks normal in the day-to-day, but if you're involved in it, that it's just not what it was. It's like there's nothing tangible you can point to other than just the cloak that hangs over the team. The vibe is different, and I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound like that was necessarily part of what needed to be addressed. I think Klay was a big part of it. I think defensive intensity was probably a big part of it. I think even the young players being put on notice as to, hey, be ready when called upon.
I agree.
And shut up otherwise.
Yeah.
And not that they're speaking out, but if you're ticked off, you're not playing and you're a young player, then when you get in the game, you play like you're ticked off, and you use that energy in a positive manner rather than kind of being pouty and unconfident when you get on the floor. Because I think we've seen that a little bit from Kuminga and Wiseman specifically.
JD, I've heard some people suggest that, the young players on the bench, they don't support their teammates. They're not as excited because they're young players and they don't know how to do that, which is ridiculous if you've ever seen a freaking high school basketball game where they're very young and high school players get very excited. So yeah, if you're upset or unhappy with limited minutes, let that show in your play. That is, play harder. It cannot show when you're on the bench. Like I mentioned earlier, Dwayne Casey, don't count your minutes, make your minutes count. And I agree with you. I would bet that was one of the elephants that they tackled last night.
The 408 on the Xfinity mobile text line at 888-957-9570. This observation may be a little forced, but the bench and even the coaches behind the bench were a lot more hyped and involved.
I noticed that too.
It looked more like last year's team.
Yeah. That's okay. If it's forced, whatever, it's got to be that. It can't be what it was because it just sends the optics are bad. And then, when the optics are bad and the body language is bad for the defending champions, that's just not acceptable. And especially it's not acceptable if it's coming from and starting with the way your young players who haven't proven anything yet are handling things.
And from the 925, echoing the point that we were just discussing, young players needed to be addressed for not moping on the bench and still be enthusiastic for their teammates. I thought it was very telling, and we touched on this last week on the show. I go back to, it was the second of the 3 Sacramento games, the one where the Warriors won at the end, and Klay Thompson fouls Herter. They don't call it. The Warriors have been down most of that game, really got eviscerated in the second and third quarter, somehow come back in the fourth quarter. They get a break on the no call. They win the game, and the bench cam, I guess the joy cam is what they call it. But the bench cam it looked like, oh, okay. All right, well, nice. All right, good. You just won a freaking game that you played pretty terrible in for 2.5 quarters.
Right.
Be freaking happy.
Yep.
You're 4-7. They hadn't won a game in a week and a half.
I will say this, and I'm not defending anybody who's not being as animated as they should be, but to me, JD, the Moody situation is still something of a mystery. And I know there's very good reason why he's not playing more, but given how he played last year and what we've seen from him, I know Steve Kerr explained it, said, well, he's got to defend without fouling. And there was one other thing he meant, turnovers. So I get that, but still, the fact that he went from where he appeared to be so far ahead of the other two last year, and then to go, well, he's hardly playing. I just got in at the end of the game last night. It's a surprise. I'm sure there's very good reasons, but as I watch that, every time I notice that Moody's not playing, I scratch my head.
No, and Tim Kalkami, the Athletic, asked Coach Kerr about it pregame, and he had been asked about it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and it was the same answer, and Kerr even trying to make light of what, and you laid it out. It was turnovers and
defend without fouling.
Oh yeah, fouling, right? Yeah, exactly, fouling too much, and he made the point that Steph and Draymond can turn it over a lot. Like Moses Moody cannot. Like Steph and Draymond can turn it over because of that's the way they play, and they got the ball in their hands, and they are basically the system. But Moses Moody has to be. It gets back to what we always say, fitting the game in a box. He also mentioned the numbers game a little bit, which I thought was interesting in that it was, hey, Jordan Poole and DiVincenzo are playing, and almost as if he was a little bit blocked. Steph and Klay obviously are playing, Poole and DiVincenzo are playing. That would seem to indicate that they view him more as a guard than a wing, and I thought that they could maybe play him a little bit more as a wing. I think Klay Thompson plays a role in this too, because Klay subs out, and they almost have to pick their spots now where Klay has to play as a wing because he doesn't defend guards at the level that he used to, and they want to play Poole out there with the other four, so they've subbed Poole for Looney at the beginning of the game more to get that 5-man group a few minutes together before the subs really start coming into the game, Whitey. But I think that was an interesting part of it. I'd heard the turnover part and the defend without fouling part, but the notion that maybe he's blocked as the fifth guard when you can only play 4 on a given night, I thought was pretty telling as well. Essentially, you can't be a wing for us right now.
Yeah. Steiny's made this point, and I think it's a great one, which is no surprise. When you look at other players that were drafted right before and right after, and sometimes way after, Moody and Kuminga, and you look at how much they're playing, and this applies to Wiseman too, and you look at other guys in that draft and how much they're playing. For a young player to see that's got to be difficult. Now, you're getting paid a lot of money, and you got to deal with a situation you can't mope, but just, the human element. We all understand why Klay's struggling with things, and obviously it's different when you have these catastrophic injuries. But if you're one of these young players and you look at something, Bones Highland, you look how much he's playing, how well he's playing. We could go, down the list. A lot of players from those drafts. It's got to be hard as a young player to figure out, why I can't even get on the floor, and these guys that were picked way after me are playing. So I understand that, but there's a better way to deal with it than to sit there and pouty on the bench.
No, can't have it. And I think that kind of thing adds to the divide, or the disconnect is probably the more appropriate word, between the younger players and the veteran players. The veteran, because at times it's felt, Whitey, almost as if the Warriors have two different teams. In essence, it's like, hey, they got the veteran championship guys now, and you've got the younger guys, and it's two different teams. And Jordan Poole has to play for both teams, and Poole almost is. I want to play with that first team. I don't want to play with that other team. I want to play with it. I want to play with these guys on this court. I don't want to play with the other guys on that court.
I'm with you, especially, and I know. As I said, I talked to Kerr about this Thursday, and he said, "Oh, there's no, that's not a thing." But not only do you have that divide, you have the veterans who have publicly stated, "We would rather play with other veterans. This will not work with young players." Okay, last year they won the championship, but the young players weren't that big a part of it. So clearly you've got some kind of divide there. It's just a matter of whether the players can deal with that or not.
888-957-9570. We'll come back. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason. I will try, because Austin, our good pal, I'll try to come up with some better math.
We need your projection. Yes.
Yeah, the next 15 to 17 games. And what can the Warriors continue to do to fix this thing, short-term and long-term? Because I think the answer long-term, and Whitey, you've hinted at this, may be different than the answer short-term. So we'll get into that coming up next. And funny moment in Philadelphia last night involving one of the game's current greats. We'll get into that as well here on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, Bay Area, ready to cheer on the Mexican national team alongside Estrella Jalisco beer? Because other teams might have an Estrella on their crest, but none of them have the heart like ours behind it. Win or lose, Estrella Jalisco and Mexican starting forward Alex Vega are bringing fans together to cheer on our team. Let's go for the Estrella on our crest with an Estrella Jalisco beer in our hands. Estrella Jalisco. Vive tu selección. Vive tu Estrella. Enjoy responsibly. Estrella Jalisco, St. Louis, Missouri.
Cache Creek Casino Resort is the place for the biggest names and the very best in live entertainment. Rock out with your favorite bands, whether it's throwback classics or today's top hits. Sit back and laugh at stand-up comedy from well-known icons and tomorrow's legends. Plus, so much more. This is your time to cash in at Cache Creek Casino Resort. Find tickets and see our full lineup at cashcreek.com.
Everyone can boost their digital confidence with NordVPN. All it takes is one simple click. NordVPN will block online trackers, hide your virtual location, and secure your devices from malware-infected files during downloads. It will also detect malicious websites. So catch the Black Friday deal for a 1 or 2 year plan at NordVPN.com and get 3 months for free. NordVPN. Cybersecurity built for every day.
This is Staples.
So rumor has it that Staples has everything I need to ship.
Mm-hmm. We have all the shipping supplies and services you need.
Boxes?
Yep.
Mailers?
Yeah, and we have UPS here in store.
Huh. What will Staples think of next?
Right?
No, seriously, I'm asking, what will they think of next?
Staples is your one-stop shipping destination. Now get 50% off shipping boxes, mailers, or tubes when you buy 5 of the same item in-store or online with 1-hour pickup. Staples, the best-kept secret in shipping. Ends 12/31. Exclusions apply. Visit staplesconnect.com/shipping for details.
This year's ratings of the best TVs just got published, and Samsung, LG, and Sony scored the highest. Also, they warned about the poor performance of the bargain brands promoted at some stores. So where can you get the best deal on the top-rated TVs? At the club? Online? Nope. At Video Only. They've got their better than Black Friday deals on right now. Don't be sorry. Check out Video Only before you buy.
We're on a journey.
To make healthcare more accessible and more equitable. To treat the most complex diseases and offer hope where often there is little. To provide better care to more people across the Bay Area. We are more than a hospital, more than a university, beyond science and technology. We are the people of UCSF. UCSF Health, redefining possible.
At Harris Ranch, we do beef, just like we've done for over 50 years. Beef that's raised locally right here in California. Tender steaks, awesome burgers, and California classics like tri-tip roast. The flavor you crave, the quality you trust time after delicious time. Come on, it's time to get out and grill. Harris Ranch, we do beef. Legendary beef, legendary quality.
Don't miss the Jim Irsay collection, coming to San Francisco on Saturday, December 10th. Jim Irsay, owner and CEO of the Indianapolis Colts, will exhibit historic sports memorabilia, presidential artifacts, the world's greatest guitar collection, and more. The evening will be topped off with a free concert by the all-star Jim Irsay Band, featuring special guests Ann Wilson, Buddy Guy, and John Fogerty. It's one night only with the Jim Irsay collection and the Jim Irsay Band on December 10th at the Bill Graham Auditorium from 7 to 10 p.m. Get your free ticket now at JimIrsayCollection.com.
Tune in to 95.7 The Game for Warriors Live, 60 minutes before tip-off of every Warriors game. Brought to you by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet, only from Xfinity.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-200-1966. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-200-1966. 800-200-1966.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
We addressed the elephants in the room. You know, we had that hard conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. We had that conversation. It was much needed. And I think it got people more focused and locked in into what we have to do as a team.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
What were the elephants in the room the Warriors addressed in the lead-up to their game against the Knicks last night? John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason, trying to decipher that here with you on Warriors This Week for the next 90 minutes at 888-957-9570. More on that coming up. No elephants in the room last night in Philadelphia, though, Whitey, as Giannis went out to try and work on his free throw stroke. Maybe no elephants in the room, but there was a big ladder that the post-game crew was trying to work on the floor at the arena there in Philadelphia. Give us the details on what ended up being a funny situation.
Yeah, I think an elephant might have had a better night from the foul line than Giannis did last night. Philly beat Milwaukee 110-102, and Giannis was He's 4 of 15 from the foul line. Ooh. 4 of 15. So to his credit, he decides he's going to take some extra shots, shoot some free throws after the game. So after he went to the locker room and then he came back out to practice free throws, and then things got kind of weird. He made 7 in a row, and you can't imagine how long it takes Giannis by himself to shoot 7 free throws. It's probably like an hour and a half, right? To deliver it. And then Montrezl Harrell of the Sixers comes out, and he is not happy. he apparently says something like, hey, we don't know, they got to change the floor, and I need to come out and do my workout, and I can't because you're doing your workout. And Giannis says, well, you can shoot with me. And Harrell's like, no. And he takes the ball. Montrezl Harrell takes Giannis's ball. So then Giannis's brother, I think it's Thanasis, he goes and talks to Harrell. And then Giannis has to go to the locker room and get like 2 more basketballs because he's got this thing, I got to make 10 in a row. Comes back out, and then the crew that's trying to change over the floor in Philly, they got a ladder up against the rim, and Giannis is like, could you take the ladder down? No. Could you take the ladder down? No. Could you take the ladder? No. And so he moves it and goes to shoot, and then they put the ladder back, and then he flings it aside, and it falls down, and eventually he finishes his free throws and storms off, and he's very upset. So it sounds like maybe they did have to change the floor over, and they didn't have time for Giannis to go through his routine and never told him. Or maybe it was just the crew there and Montrezl Harrell like, hey, you know what? That's Giannis. He's not on our team. Let's get in his head a little bit. I'm not sure what happened, but he was very upset. And my favorite part is Montrezl Harrell going over and taking his ball and going, no, I'm not going to give you the ball. You can't practice free throws.
I think there's going to be more on that between those two teams as the season goes on. That is how you build a legitimate rivalry.
There you go. Yeah. And I guess the crew, whatever you call them, it'd be a grounds crew, the arena crew. Maybe they deserve some credit for that too. Sticking up for the home team.
Only in Philadelphia, Whitey. Only in Philadelphia. Let's get to the phones. 888-957-9570. RC in Napa here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, RC? Oh, we lost RC. All right. 888-957-9570. As it is Warriors this week with JD and
RC
Whitey
took
here.
his ball. Or maybe Montrezl Harrell took his ball.
His ball and went home.
Yeah, that's what there.
Running through the elephants in the room. Is there anything we've missed as far as elephants in the room? We had the JaMychal Green. I mean, I think Klay was number one. Klay addressed that in his post-game press conference, also stating that Draymond Green was pretty vocal with everybody in this team meeting that was held yesterday in the lead-up to the Warriors game against the Knicks. Is Draymond reemerging as one of the vocal leaders of this team coming off the punch? I think that would be a significant development if true, to show that everyone's moving forward with it. It's one thing to move forward with it and not have it be noticeable that anything's going on, but when you know you're over it, to me, is when everyone can act as their normal selves again without it being awkward. So if Draymond can speak to certain things about this basketball team in a manner that maybe he didn't feel like he could and shouldn't have because of what happened 6 weeks ago with the punch of Jordan Poole, and now he's regaining some of that, that clout, that is a positive development, I think, for the Warriors moving forward. Other things that I bookmarked: defensive intensity and the young players needing to be more engaged, even if they're not in the game. Am I missing anything, Whitey?
The only things, well, you mentioned defensive intensity, and we don't know, but based on what we do know, you asked me to speculate, so it's speculation. Things could have gotten kind of direct in terms of, hey, you need to play better defense. And I don't know who, I wouldn't be fair to say, but it could be, hey, you know what? You need to defend better. You're not holding up your end defensively. Some of that could have been directed at Jordan Poole. I'm wondering if Poole, his inconsistency, if the players think, as some fans do, that he has some sort of attitude issue with not starting, it would surprise me because he literally signed up for this. But if the players thought that was an issue for him, I could see how that would be addressed, because we know, Steph last year when he came off the bench after he came back from injury, he made a point of publicly saying, I'm showing people, Jordan Poole, that anybody should be coming off the bench. So that's just a guess. But given the struggles,
do you think that's a thing right now? Do you think Poole wanting to start is a thing? Because I've stopped short of thinking that that's something that's ticking him off, as opposed to, to me, it's more just been, well, if you did it, I think Poole would play better, and it may in turn help the team overall play better. I've never really looked at it as an ego thing where it's like, hey, I should be playing, man. I'm one of the best 5 players. I'm getting 100 $23 million beginning next year, put me in. Do you think there is an element of that?
I don't think so, but it's an interesting subject because, as you know, JD, anybody who's watched basketball for a long time, you know that there have been some great sixth men in NBA history. And you know that one of the things that's made them great is the belief that I'm going to do this, but I should be starting. You know, that can be a positive for a sixth man. I can't imagine that it's something that's bothering Poole because as I said, he signed a contract here, and he knew that he wasn't going to be starting right away as long as Klay was here. So it would surprise me, but it does seem like it is affecting his play, or he's having obviously a harder time coming off the bench. And maybe that was part of it too. Is like, you know what? Whatever, you got to figure it out. 36 points when you're starting, and then 2 coming off the bench. Why is that? That's on you to figure that out. Maybe other teams are defending you differently. You got to figure that out. Sure, it's easier playing with Steph, but you need to be more consistent. But I agree with you. I can't imagine that I'm not going to take more shots because I should be starting. That could be the case, but I don't think so.
No, I find it fascinating that, even the thought that there have been games where he just isn't aggressive because he's ticked off, almost pulling a Kobe. Kobe Bryant a couple of different times in his career did that. Where, all right, you don't want me to shoot?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
I won't shoot at all then, and we'll see how that works out for the team.
Maybe if some of that is caused by how much Klay is shooting, then Klay scaling it back a little bit takes care of some of that. And again, just if they play better defense, that takes care of a lot of these elephants.
Now, that part, the Klay part, I will say, that's something that could be in play. Because I think teammates were visibly annoyed at some of the shots that Klay took. So that's not necessarily thinking, hey, I should be starting, but it's also like, hey, look, like this guy is just wrecking the game with the shots that he's taking right now. And because to me, it was all interconnected. And you saw last night where just a simple adjustment from Klay leads to better ball movement, leads to better shots from him, leads to, I think, better defense because some shots are turnover. Like, I believe some bad shots are turnovers. They just put your defense in a position where they are completely compromised.
The bad shot is the blood relative of the turnover. Totally agree.
Perfect. Perfectly said. And I think that has been a problem for the Warriors in some of these games. They've taken some bad shots, and Klay specifically has taken some bad shots, which has made their already a little shaky defense a heck of a lot worse.
With Jordan Poole, Coach Kerr has pointed out that Jordan Poole is higher now on the list of defensive priorities of the opposition, so that makes things tougher. But I still think JD, it seems to happen. He plays better when he's starting than when he's coming off the bench. I just think he's still an inconsistent player. It's a done deal now. I would not have given him the contract already. I would have waited to see how this year plays out. And I think we disagree on that because I think you didn't want him playing in a year where he had to prove himself. But I think that's a bigger issue than anything going on in his head. He's just kind of an inconsistent, streaky player and a streaky shooter. Who knows? But, the key is we've said here about Klay, what happens when he has a bad shooting night. But to go from Wednesday, when they'd hit rock bottom, to bounce back last night and to look so much better in so many ways, it's a relief more than anything, I think. And, because if they had come out last night and still played badly, anything like they did Wednesday, you'd have real problems. So you've got a way out of this now. At least you know what short-term a way out is, improved defense, but I still think they're going to have to add to this roster.
No, and that is the bigger picture view of it. And I was pretty adamant in the game, following the game against the Suns in the post game from Phoenix, the fact that I just don't know that this team, that they have to play, and I think they have to play well, but expend so much energy right now to play well to where even if they do get on track, I don't think they're going to be able to do it consistently enough with this group to get the seed that they're going to want to get. Like, I think, and look, it's early enough, and the teams we talked about in the first hour, it's jumbled up enough to where, they haven't been crushed by this. They're 3.5 out of first, I think, right now, even. Still only 3.5 out of the top spot, and the top spot is Portland. So, that makes you think that maybe you still got some action as far as getting into the top half of that bracket. if you could get hot, but they've had to work so hard, I think, to just be in some of these games that they haven't been able to win. It feels a little unsustainable with the top 8 that they currently have, and I'm counting Poole, obviously DiVincenzo, and I'm throwing JaMychal Green in as the 8th guy right now.
One of the problems, and maybe it's an elephant, I don't know, one of them was still apparent last night, but we just didn't notice it as much because so many things went right. But if raw plus minus can be deceiving. But real quick here, the starters last night were all positive, plus 20, plus 24, plus 20, plus 18, plus 18. Great. Then you go to the bench, and JaMychal Green was plus 8. The rest of them, Poole's minus 15. Was it Lamb was minus 17, DiVincenzo minus 11, Kuminga minus 7 in his 9 minutes, and Moody was minus 8 in 2 minutes. So that's still an issue with this team. Last night it looked like, oh, great, we're back, we're playing Warrior basketball. But the drop-off when you go to the second unit is still a real issue, and it's apparent to me that Steve Kerr is trying to paper over that as best as he can, by not putting like 5 reserves out there at one time.
He wants to play the young players. He does want to, but he just doesn't feel like he can.
Yeah.
And you look at the starters, and then as we just mentioned, Poole and DiVincenzo are clearly 6'7" right now. And JaMychal Green, Steve Kerr's made the commitment. All right, he's going to be the backup 5. Mm-hmm. That's the 8. And then Anthony Lamb is the other tell here, because Anthony Lamb right now is more trustable for Steve Kerr than any of the he is the next guy that's playing the most, and by comparison, he's a veteran player.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, he's also having to play out of position a little bit. A 6'6" guy, all right, go defend Sabonis and getting his head caved in through really no fault of his own.
Yeah, no doubt about it. 888-957-9570. Let's get to Robin in San Francisco. Hey, Robin, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing okay, you guys. And good morning to the both of you. I want to say something. I don't know if I can articulate this, but with Jordan Poole, okay, all players are expected to play defense, or at least attempt to play defense. I remember a time when Curry was at a defensive level, the same as Jordan Poole. I mean, we can say his defense wasn't all that bad back then, but it was. And they used to go to great lengths to hide it. So my thing is that now that he's gotten paid, Poole's gotten paid, people expect when they analyze him, whatever, oh, he doesn't play defense, he's not that. Well, what the hell do you expect? The boy just got to the level through his hard work, and got paid for it. I get with the pay grade comes a higher level of expectation, but he is still developing. So here's the thing. He has to stay consistent with what he got paid for, and then he has to be able to rise above that and play better defense and be a better playmaker and create better. All these things that he's asking to do doesn't just come naturally, does it? He has to be developing for that. He is expected to be the leader of that second unit, and I've always stated on this airways, I don't know if he can get to that level. I hope I'm making sense, you guys, and maybe you can articulate it a little better than me. Have a great day.
Thanks, Robin. 888-957-9570. I think she said it pretty well. I mean, and the comparison to Curry is on point. I mean, Curry was an awful defender. He worked at it. He got stronger. He got quicker. He worked on his positioning, and I think accepted the challenge that he wanted to guard more of the game's better players as somebody that is one of the game's better players. I think there's a little bit of an ego challenge to, well, wait a minute. I can't guard Chris Paul. Like, I'm a better freaking player than Chris Paul, so I need to be able to guard Chris Paul, and he's taken on more of those challenges over the years. I think the point's also on with, hey, Poole got paid because he worked his ass off. Well, you can work your ass off to play defense a little bit better too now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I know I've made the mistake in the past, and I think as fans sometimes we make the mistake, as I said, I've made it, of thinking things like defense and rebounding is like, well, it's all about attitude. Well, it's a lot to do with it, but it's more than that. I mean, you have to have the physical tools, especially at that level. to play defense. Jordan Poole, and I don't even know if this is possible, JD, but to my eye, as quick as he is, he gets in the triple threat position and he makes these fakes and he can just baffle opponents. As quick as he is, I don't know that he has that lateral quickness to stay with guys when they have the ball. Because I see him and he slides and then he bumps into the dribbler because it's almost like I know I can't keep up with him, so I've got to bump him. So some of it, is hard work, and just physically, I don't know if he's that good at that. But the problem with the defense is if you have that at the point of attack and guys get into the lane and then you've got smaller centers, then what do you get? You get fouls, and that's been part of the problem. So I think that's a huge part of it, but I don't know with Jordan Poole if it's I don't know that it's fair to say, he just doesn't want to play better defense. He needs to. I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of the discussion, the elephant in the room discussion. But I don't know that it's as simple as he just needs to work harder at it. I think he may lack some of the things that make a guy a good defender at the NBA level.
Well, and I think he is too. He's focused on his offense, trying to figure out how to function. It's almost as if, I need to be better defensively. I'll get to that. But right now, I need to get better offensively and get adjusted to not only not starting where he was his most successful last year, and really a big part of the reason why he got paid was the 19 a game that he averaged when the Warriors were 28-9 or whatever it was, and up until the point 29-9 when Klay Thompson came back from his injury and took his slot in the starting lineup. So, and then the other issue is trying to play as dominantly as he can with this new group of young players that he's with that just doesn't click. And I think that, so I almost feel like, all right, that's the third thing down the line. Like, all right, I'll get to the defense. We'll get to that later.
I also don't, please, if you disagree, please let me know. By NBA standards, now I'm talking by NBA standards, not just walking down the street standards, I don't know that he's amongst other guards, some that he plays, I don't know that he's as strong as them. And I'm talking, certainly like a Drew Holiday or even like a Chris Paul. And I think that hurts him defensively too.
That was a Curry problem, I think, early on in Curry's career. I think until he built up the strength, that was, I think it was twofold. I think it was commitment to the task at hand for sure, but I also think, Whitey, it was getting your body in position to where you could compete, and this is where he is only 23, right? So I mean, and he just got paid, and so I'm a little less worried about whether he can eventually get better. Maybe he can't, but he's also your sixth man, so. In a sense, it's like the other stuff is more important, but it can't be as horrifically bad as it's been. It's been really bad. And the offense, if he's scoring at a high level efficiently, it offsets some of it. He's had so many bad offensive games that I feel like the defense becomes an even bigger issue because it becomes a real net negative when he's not scoring, and there's been a lot of those games where he's not scoring.
Well, and I got to point this out again because he's already a far better player than I ever thought he was going to be. So, that first year, he's a far better player. But when some people talk about how, I think Curry and Poole should be starting, those people, in my opinion, don't talk enough about how much that compromises you defensively. And I know Klay's not what he was, and I know Klay, they had to take him off Booker in the second half of the game Wednesday because he had problems. But if you're starting Curry and Poole, that's your starting backcourt. I mean, there's some other backcourts that see that and they're just salivating because you got issues defensively at the jump if that's your starting backcourt.
Although, for whatever reason, the defense has tended to be better for him when he started. Which, that's playing with other players, maybe other defensive players, the system. Draymond's there to cover up for everybody. I don't know, but and I keep going back to they covered for it last year enough. Like they were a really good.
They did.
They were a really good defensive team those first 40 or so games.
Yeah, and we know that the starting five. If you look at the metrics, the starting five is a very productive group, and they're plus whatever. If you take Klay out and put Poole in, and you look at that group, they haven't played as often together, but they're last time I checked, they're like plus 10 in 30 minutes, something like that. So that group also has been effective. I have to admit, I don't think they should start Poole, but I got to admit, Poole in for Klay has that group has played pretty well too. 888-957-9570.
John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason. Warriors this week with you here on a Saturday on 95.7 The Game. Another hour to go as we're going to be taking you up until 1 o'clock here. I wanted to come back to close out the hour, just looking ahead at these next 15
Here we go.
games.
JD's projection.
I think 10-7, 11-6 is what you want at this point. I'm taking it to 17 games. We talked about this earlier. 15 games puts them right at the middle of, really the back third of this 6-game road trip in the middle of December leading up to Christmas. They go to Milwaukee, Indiana, Philly, Toronto, New York, and Brooklyn. And it's a situation there where they've got, I think you add the 2 at the end, that gets you to 17. I think if you can go 10-7, that gets you to 17 and 16. If you can go 11-6, that gets you to 18 and 15. It takes a while to dig out of a hole once you get 3-4 games under 500, as the Warriors did. If they were 18 and 15 on Christmas, a little more than a third of the way through the season, but believing that they've corrected some issues, I think you'd take that. I'm looking at the gimmies, though. There aren't a lot of gimmies for the Warriors. I see 2 Houston games among that 17 that are the only games that I'd put in the need to be a gimme category.
Well, you're
Indiana,
right. Some of that's the nature.
Indiana a couple times, but they're playing a little better than you think, and
some of that is
the Warriors
the nature.
have lost to a lot of these.
Exactly, that's it. I was going to say some of that is the nature of the league this year, and then some of it is the fact that you've already lost to Detroit and Orlando and Charlotte, and I think Denver is in position when they get their guys back maybe to make a push. But some of the other teams that are near the top of the West right now, who knows? Come the first of the year, maybe they start to fall off a little bit. A lot of people expecting teams like Utah and Portland to fall off. So if the Warriors can get it together enough to go 11-6, you say, over that next stretch. And I still think if they're going to be able to add a veteran come New Year's, I think they're going to be in good position to make a real solid push into the playoffs if those things fall into place for them.
888-957-9570. We'll come back. Add a veteran. Where and potentially who? We'll get into that coming up. It's John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason. We'll also get back to the phones. 888-957-9570. Warriors this week. Final hour straight ahead here on 95.7 The Game.
At Target, you can shop with confidence knowing that if you spot a better Target price, we'll match it with our Holiday Price Match Guarantee. Pick up the hottest gifts of the season, holiday hosting essentials, and so much more right now. If you spot a better Target price, we'll match it on items purchased between October 6th and December 24th. Get the gifts you want at prices you love all season long with Target's Holiday Price Match Guarantee. Get price match policy details on Target.com. Some exclusions apply.
November is a great time to get a new TV. Now that the top-rated brands like Samsung, LG, and Sony are at the lowest prices of the year. With Black Friday deals available, what more could you want? How about better than Black Friday? Before you click, you should call Video Only to see how you can go lower than Black Friday. That's right, the best TVs at better prices. Check out Video Only before you buy, or you'll be sorry.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
He's the best interview in the Bay Area.
Splish Splash. Coach, are you taking a bath?
Could you hear a little water in the background?
Yeah! He's a 9-time NBA champion.
Not 5, not 6, not 7.
And he's on with Damon and Ratto every single week during the NBA season.
Wow.
It's Warriors head coach Steve Kerr on 95.7 The Game. Presented by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet only from Xfinity.
Homeowners are choosing the beauty of Milgard Trinsic Vinyl featured at Dolan's. Narrow frames, the contemporary look, the color choices, perfect white and tan, and an array of custom exterior colors. And that's only the beginning. The innovative Smart Touch window locks exceed California's rigorous forced entry codes, plus energy efficiency for comfort. Discover Milgard's vinyl benefits in the Ideas section at dolanlumber.com.
Kirby is your driveway mechanic. They bring the shop to you with brake replacements, oil changes, washes, and so much more. Get $50 off your first oil change with code OIL50 at Kirby.com. That's CURBEE.com and use code OIL50.
Black Friday is starting early at Fasteners Inc. Tool Outlet, and there's no better place to shop for all your power tools. Grab free batteries with tons of Makita products and many more of the year's hottest deals November 21st through the 28th. 2897 Monterey Highway or online at fastenersinc.net.
You can't get much for $5 these days. Unless you go to Wendy's for a $5 Biggie Bag. Get your choice of double stack, junior bacon cheeseburger, or crispy chicken BLT. Plus 4-piece nugs, fries, and a drink. All for just $5. You got that bag. You got that Biggie Bag. You got that bag. That was smooth, wasn't it? That's how you're gonna feel when you get that Biggie Bag at Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Includes 4-piece nuggets, small soft drink, and small fry. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
The Wendy's $3 breakfast deal is here. Get a bacon or sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, plus a small seasoned potatoes. That's a better breakfast for just $3 in 3 easy steps. 1, wake up. 2, get out of bed. And 3, head to Wendy's for your $3 breakfast deal. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's $3 breakfast deal.
Limited time only. Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours. Select or request $3 breakfast deal in order to obtain discount. Not valid for a la carte or combos orders. Price and participation may vary in Alaska and Hawaii.
O'Reilly. Cleaning your fuel system can help your engine run better and improve gas mileage. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts and pick up a bottle of Chevron Techron Fuel System Cleaner on sale now. Buy one, get one free, plus double O rewards points. Get more fuel-saving tips from the professional parts people at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. New Gillette Intimate gives guys a gentle and easy shave on there. And around there. And even under there. Don't treat your groin like junk. Respect it with Gillette Intimate, the best a man can get. Buy now at Walmart.
AT&T Fiber presents a straightforward moment inspired by straightforward pricing.
And now we just cube the pancetta as such.
So what's on the menu tonight?
This carbonara I found online. It's fire. You gonna love it, Mom.
I hope you hold on to this AT&T Fiber, son. It's nice.
Yeah, you should settle down now that you're a gagillionaire.
Oh, I am. I finally found the one internet I've been looking for my whole life.
So, no more one-year stands?
No, I'm done with all that. With AT&T Fiber, there's no price increase at 12 months.
What about equipment fees?
Nope.
Those were never any good for you.
Exactly. But now, everything's completely straightforward.
Well, in the spirit of being straightforward, I never liked any of your old ones.
Me neither. Blah.
Y'all never told me that.
But we're being straightforward now, which feels good, yeah?
Yeah. Now let's get straightforward about that girl he's been seeing.
Straightforward is better. No equipment fees, no data caps, no price increase at 12 months. Live like a gagillionaire with AT&T Fiber. Limited availability in select areas. Visit att.com/hypergig for details.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM at HD1 San Francisco.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
All right, final hour. John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. Warriors This Week, 888-957-9570. A lot to continue to get into. Do the Warriors have to make some kind of a move between now and the end of the season?
Yes.
If they want to win a championship, Whitey's already on board with the yes to answer that question. And what could it be? Quick text messages to get to. Just one. I wanted to address here from the 650 before we get back to the phones. JD, didn't you always say that just because Poole got the deal doesn't mean he will be with the Warriors long term? Take a victory lap, young man. Well, he's still on the team, so I don't know that I necessarily have got that one right yet. But
he's hard to trade right now, too. You could trade him, but it's really hard.
If you trade him now, you're trading a $4 million player as opposed to a $30 million player. So what you can get back, it's better to have him for this year, but I do think he becomes a tradable asset next year if you wanted to go down that path and also maybe help him be put in a position where he'd get a shot to start and maybe get a shot at his own team. But yes, that is something that I did say, so I appreciate those that are sticklers for remembering when some of those things have the potential to come out correct. Let's get back to the phones, though, Whitey. Appreciate Lynn in Atlanta for waiting through the break here. Thanks, Lynn. How are you, Lynn?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, I am a longtime Warriors fan. I live in Atlanta now, but I used to work for a company in the Bay, so I got a chance to go to several games a few years back. And one of the things I think that I struggle with the criticisms of Poole, not that he doesn't need to continue to develop, but I think, the comparisons with him and Curry is that when Curry and Klay hit the NBA, the Warriors were in a completely different position, and they were allowed time to develop. None of them came to the NBA with the skills that we see today. And so I think because they have built up this franchise to the premier franchise that it is today, the demand and the requirements for Poole to come up to speed are just that much more heightened. I think we're comparing Poole with really, his second year playing with the team, because he spent the first year and a half in the G League, to Curry, who's now in his 14th year, is a bit unfair because he's going to still need time to develop. Curry wasn't the player he is in year 3 that he is in year 14. So I think, some players come ready-made. Ja has come ready-made. He's hit the NBA with a splash. But other people take time to develop. And so I think, Bob Myers seems to really believe in this kid for a reason. And that's one of the things that he said early on, is that everybody develops at their own speed. But if they see certain markers coming to play where that person is progressing, the franchise is willing to believe in them. And I think that we as the fans need to understand that as well.
Great phone call, Lynn. Thanks. Don't make it your last. That was an excellent phone call, Lynn, calling us here from Atlanta, Georgia. And I think it's spot on as far as Klay and Steph having the opportunity to develop, and Poole gets a little bit less of that opportunity now because he has to function in the context of trying to win an NBA championship. But at the same time, I think the belief is if he's such a hard worker, and everybody has been adamant that he has been such a hard worker, well, put that attention toward the defensive end a little bit more.
I think the thing that's really unfair about comparing Poole to Curry and Klay, frankly, is I don't think that he's ever going to be at their level as a shooter. And I know right now Klay's not shooting the ball real well, but I've said this before, I think he's a little streaky by nature. We've seen that. Curry and Klay, I think, he just is not going to be as good as them. And that's okay. So that's why I don't think it's fair to compare. That's not a knock on him. The thing is here, he's in position to potentially become one of the cornerstones one of the next foundational pieces for the Warriors. So there are things, obviously, for him to get from here to there that he's going to have to work on. And defense is an issue with him. He's made tremendous strides since that first year here, the 15-win year when he was sent down to the G League. But it's also fair, especially for a guy who earns that contract. It's fair for fans to look at and say, "Hey, how come he can't be better in these areas?" And clearly, for the franchise, they want him to continue to improve as well. But he's already had, the way he played last year in the postseason. I think that's really where he earned that big contract, JD.
No doubt. And I think also the fact that they were able to be as good as they were when he started in place of Klay Thompson.
Yes,
I think that showed that he can be. I mean, if the Warriors are not 18-2 and 29-9 with him in the starting lineup last year, they probably don't go on to win an NBA championship because the path to do it would have been a lot harder from the 4 or the 5 seed. And they were very close. People forget to being a 4
That's
or
right.
even a 5 seed last year when it was all said and done. Abi in Dublin next here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Abi?
Thanks for the opportunity. I have this crazy idea. Hear me out, okay? So yesterday I was kind of hearing one of LeBron James's podcasts. It was a dated one. It happened like a few months back. And he shared his interest on working with Steph Curry. Now, there's a lot of conversation. I think Stephen S. Smith from ESPN spoke about Kevin Durant being the guy who can be probably, there might be a package that we can build where we can have Klay versus Kevin Durant, right, for Nets and Warriors. I'm thinking, why not LeBron? Like, why can't LeBron join Warriors? Like, think about it, right? So he's, of course, trying to win another chip before he retires. It's almost the end of his career, and let's be honest, I think this is a great time to be so. He has shared the interest of playing with his son, Bronny, before he retires. So I think with the Warriors setup, this would be a great place for Bronny to grow as well. And last but not the least, I would love to see Steph and LeBron play together pretty much every night. And that would be a great interest. I mean, Bay Area would be like the equivalent of a Showtime Laker kind of a thing. Pretty much every night you watch these two play. Plus, I think the Lakers need some shooting as well. So if they get somebody like Klay or even Wiggins, that wouldn't be a bad deal for them. So think about it. I think if LeBron comes to the Bay Area, that wouldn't be a bad idea. It kind of takes care of a lot of our problems right now from a defensive end. And I think overall we'll be a better team and a great team to see.
Thanks for the call. I don't see it happening right now as far as a looking to make that kind of a trade. I will not rule out more. Where my mind went with that is, well, the Lakers aren't going to do that now, and the Warriors I don't think would want to get locked into where they're giving up certain players and taking back and just changing the mix. And to me, that would be more of a Lakers want to tear it down to the studs kind of a move if they did something like that. They don't, and he's been out also the last handful of games. So I'm rambling a little bit on it. I don't think it's crazy to think LeBron as a free agent when he gets to the point where maybe he doesn't want to make the most money he can and he would take a mid-level kind of a deal or that kind of thing. I don't think it's that crazy to think LeBron wouldn't maybe want to look at playing with Steph a little bit. And I think that would be more apt to happen here now than maybe happen somewhere else down the line. I used to kind of wonder, you never know, maybe Steph goes somewhere at the end of his career, maybe LeBron does. But I feel like LeBron, who's got options galore, I don't think it's that crazy to think down the line that he wouldn't maybe want to come to the Warriors just to be able to say he played a little bit with Steph.
I don't think it's preposterous. I think it's still a little bit of a stretch, but I'm with you. I could see that down the road as far as this year goes. And to the points that Abby made, and thanks for calling. Like you mentioned, you could trade Wiggins. Well, you can't trade Wiggins because he just signed the contract. I'm not saying, well, you can't trade Wiggins. You shouldn't do that. I'm saying you can't trade him. It just speaks to, and Poole with his contract, it's really difficult. Even if you wanted to do that, it would be difficult to put together a package. I can't see the Lakers willing to take Wiseman for LeBron. Sure, we'll do that. We love Wiseman. So I don't think a trade it would be in the works now. And as you mentioned, JD, and I think this is significant, we can't gloss over it. LeBron is with an injury now, and he's getting older. And I know he defeated Father Time in the commercials, but you know what? Push comes to shove, Father Time is going to win that. And LeBron, they just had a few, 3 or 4 days off, and he still couldn't play because he's got a groin injury. So he's an older player, and this year for him, I think is about, chasing down Kareem's record. This year, it's not as far-fetched and ridiculous as maybe it would have been, but right now, it doesn't make sense. I don't think LeBron coming to the Warriors this year, I just don't see how that would work.
The question, though, becomes, in separating from what Abi brought up, do the Warriors have to do something? And look, I saw the Nets play in Sacramento on Tuesday when the Kings put 153 on them. And I know Brooklyn did go in and beat Portland after that, but the Nets are just in an awful way right now.
Now they got Kyrie coming back, though. Look out. Here he comes.
Well, yeah, they got Kyrie coming back after they were, 5-3 without him. They played better without him.
Look out.
5-3, that's playing better. Look out. And now Kyrie is coming back into the equation as they come back home off of a Western trip. They actually went 2-2. They beat the Clippers and beat Portland, and then lost to Sacramento in embarrassing fashion and lost to the Lakers. So I think that tells you a little something about effort and engagement
Maybe
when
so.
it comes to the Nets, Whitey.
Yeah. Ben Simmons played. It was the Portland game. Ben Simmons played well, too.
Yeah. 6 for 6. And he had
off the bench. So if you're suggesting KD's in play, I would love that, and I think that would be great. But again,
I just don't want to give up Wiggins for it, but
you can't, right? You can't, yeah. So
and you can't do Poole now. So even if I feel like KD would fix issues for KD. It would fix some of the Warriors' issues. But like you said, you can't trade. I wouldn't want to trade Wiggins at this point. Like I would almost want that deal to be Poole and Wiseman and Kuminga, and maybe I would if the money worked, and I'll say this because and I know it was quelled a little bit because the Warriors won last night, and we're talking about the team meeting and the elephants in the room, and hey, Klay looked better and the defense was better, so things did trend a little bit toward the positive light. But if to bring it back to Durant, if you could give up Poole, Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody for Durant, I would do it. I would absolutely, in a heartbeat, I would give up all 4 of those young guys to bring Durant in. You'd need to take some pieces back to build a bench back up, but I would try to win a title with that over the development and the 2 timelines. I'm kind of done with the 2 timelines. I guess,
am too.
If that makes sense. I think I'm done with it.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately is proving to be a train wreck. Although it was very ambitious, you understand why they did it, but they knew it might not work, and I think there's a lot of evidence now to suggest, to state actually, it's not working. Again, you try to put these packages together, and it's really complicated because of the contracts. If you could figure something out, you might have to bring a third team in. I'm all for it. I also think this from KD's standpoint, and who knows, but would KD want to come here? When he came here before, people said he was riding Steph's coattails. That would be totally different now. If KD came here now, it would be KD coming to save them rather than KD just jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So I think from his standpoint, he'd be on board with that. But I don't know how you can swing that. If you can, I'm all for it.
He'd be riding as the number 2 with Steph. It's basically him and Steph at this point, and it would allow Wiggins to go down the pecking order. Klay could be the 4th option, whatever, just be a shooter. I think it would even improve their defense a little bit.
But you might have to trade Draymond to make that work. And if you're Durant, would he want to come here? If you don't have Draymond, is he going to say, well, I don't want to. If Draymond's out there, I don't want to go there. So that's one of the things that really complicates it.
It's a mismatch right now, unfortunately, as far as the pieces and who would have to go to bring him in.
Yeah.
You can't. And that you can't do the deal that I would do. Give up all the young players and get Durant. You can't. I mean, again, you can't do that.
Well, like Poole's deal. Real quick. I know it's complicated, but Poole's deal, his money going out is what he's getting now. But for the team that takes him, the money that he's going to get counts for them. So it's totally out of whack. And so when you come to trying to match those things, good luck. And it's the league trying to prevent teams from doing sign-in trades.
He needs to be a $30 million player before you can move him, both ways. And he isn't going to be that until next year. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game. Let's get to the coach in Vallejo on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Coach.
Hey, JD and John, how you doing? Glad you got me on. And hope you hear me out here, but why can't they or why don't the Warriors go get Dwight Howard for this year? Now, I know it's Taiwan, but his first game was 38, 25, and 9. Okay, his first game, So that's telling me he's at least running up and down the court every day. And coming off the bench for 10 to 15 minutes a game, Dwight Howard instead of Jermichael Green, Steph and Klay would absolutely love that. He's still big, he's still strong, he still can rebounder, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. So why won't the Warriors pursue that?
Coach, I think they won't pursue it or didn't pursue it because they had James Wiseman penciled in for those 10 to 15 minutes a game that you speak of. I don't think that one's crazy, though, anymore, Coach. I think you put him on the list of players that could be on the Warriors before the end of the year on a veteran minimum type of deal where it's prorated for the time at which they sign him. I think that's actually a possibility.
There was a time 11 years ago or more where Joe Lacob really wanted Dwight Howard. Here's the thing that I look at, though. To Coach's point, Dwight Howard's playing in Taiwan now. Why? Nobody wants him. Nobody wanted him here. I mean, look at some of the other backup bigs that you've got in the NBA. So sometimes you got to look at why isn't anyone signing this guy? Oh, well, if nobody wants him, then there's that's a pretty good indicator that he just can't play anymore. I'm with you, JD. Maybe down the road he becomes a last-ditch option. But the fact that he's in Taiwan, to me, that tells you all you need to know about whether Dwight Howard can really help you this year.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I think he can help in that limited role, and that limited role may be exactly what the Warriors need. And yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be instead of Jermichael Green. I mean, it would be, I think, in some nights, but I think the Warriors could also get back to, all right, Looney's going to play 6 minutes, and then maybe you look at Jermichael Green playing 5 or 6 minutes, and then maybe Howard plays 5 or 6 minutes, and then you figure out who gets the closing shift of a half, and you really split it up almost into 4 different categories as far as who's going to be out there at the end of the game, and you create options of players that can all do some different things. So I really don't think that one's crazy. Eric in San Francisco.
I'm sorry. Go real quick. I'm sorry. Yeah. Real quick. We disagree on that, but I will say this to the whole idea. Dwight Howard, when he was with Orlando and they went to the finals in 2009, they basically ran a 4-out, 1-in, like a Warrior-esque offense. So he has some experience playing in an offense that was basically similar to what the Warriors do a lot.
Yeah, and I think he's accepted the fact as time has gone on that he knows who he is now, and I think he can help. I mean, he helped the Lakers going back a couple of years ago. I think he was with Philly, and so I don't know. I think he's accepted the fact that he knows he's an extremely limited player and probably can help in that smaller type role. Eric next year on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Eric.
Hey guys, how are you doing this afternoon?
Good.
Yeah, so I wanted to call about something that really struck me last night when I was at the game, and that is the disconnect between the front office and drafting and Kerr's preference for players. And the two most striking examples are Anthony Lamb had, for the most part last night, 0 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound. Kuminga had 5 rebounds in like the first 9 minutes he played, but he doesn't get off the bench in the second half. And then with Wiseman's a pick-and-roll center, but Kerr doesn't like pick-and-roll. Plus, the Wiseman-Kuminga fit's never going to work. So it seems like the front office is like trying to draft these high-upside guys that don't fit Kerr's system, and therefore they don't get any run, and their value plummets, and they don't improve because they don't get any run. And so it seems like what's really been amplified this year, and I'll take your opinion offline, is that the biggest fundamental flaw is the discrepancy between the front office and Joe Lacob and Bob Myers and who they draft and the players Steve Kerr likes. And I think that's really come to a head in this first 16 games. Like I said, I'd be interested to hear what you guys think.
No, I think it's a great topic to bring up. I think the Warriors have drafted Whitey. They have drafted best player or highest talent level available in a lot of these instances. I think more specifically with Wiseman and Kuminga, and I think those players don't do the things that Steve Kerr needs them to do as role players to get the time on the floor. And so it is compounded by the fact that if they don't get time on the floor, then they don't develop. And the Warriors right now are not good enough to let them be on the floor to make mistakes, which I think is the bigger issue. But the one thing I will say on the other part is I think Steve Kerr wants to play him more, but they just don't play well enough when he's been given the opportunity. So he's going to guys that he trusts because he doesn't want this season to get off the rails any more than it already has, with a team being 7-9.
It's not a trend, just a broad trend that happens. But to the caller's point, to your point, I think it's crystal clear that is happening with those two guys, Kuminga and Wiseman. With Wiseman, I think when the Warriors drafted him, he was so raw, you could argue that nobody knew what kind of player he was going to become other than the front office, which, again, our ownership probably goes higher than the front office. Ownership saw an opportunity here. We've got a core, they're aging, and now we have these high picks, which a team in our position doesn't normally have. We need to replace our core players. We need to find superstars. Wiseman, it was felt, could be one of those guys. He still could be, doesn't look like it right now. That's why they took the gamble on a guy who, would he fit what we do? We don't know, but we think he can have tremendous upside. And I think this similar thing happened with Kuminga. What I knew of Kuminga and the way he played, I wondered if he was a good fit for the Warriors, but I think they saw we got the 7th pick. This is a guy who, a few weeks or months before the draft, he was considered one of the top 3 prospects. So they took these guys, even though they were questionable fits, because there was so much upside, and they had more upside than some of the other guys that we could name in those drafts. Maybe they'll regret that. Maybe they regret that now. But I think there's something to that did happen, but that's why it happened, because they were swinging for the fences on both those players.
Do you think the Warriors look back now, Whitey, and regret not taking LaMelo Ball at everything? And if you remember that day that Wiseman was drafted in November, it was, I think, 2 years ago yesterday, actually. It was also the day where Klay Thompson injured his Achilles, and it was revealed that he was going to have to miss another year when it seemed like he was so close to coming back from the knee injury. Had worked his way back. I think it was November the 18th, if memory serves, in 2020. Do you think they regret, knowing everything that they know now, not taking LaMelo Ball? And I know LaMelo Ball's been injured. Yeah, he's been hurt a lot. I love LaMelo Ball. We've talked about how if you have LaMelo Ball, you probably don't develop Poole. So I don't know about that specifically. Not hard to imagine them regretting that maybe they didn't trade down and get a player and a Tyrese Halliburton, for that pick. Can you imagine if they drafted Halliburton that year, and then the next year if they drafted, say, Franz Wagner, and there's some other names you could slide in there? Just think how much brighter the future would appear right now if they'd done that. That's the nature of the draft, but they were shooting for the stars with those picks. 888-957-9570, 510. John Dickinson, I usually like your takes, but giving up the young guys for KD is crazy. KD doesn't want to be here. Move on. I think KD would be fine being here. And look, I've been reluctant to go down the road of bringing KD back, but to me, and again, you can't do it, so it's silly to bring up in a way because we've laid out a million different ways, but just the simple concept of, hey, are you all in on the second timeline, or would you rather have KD? The answer for me now is unequivocally, I would rather have KD. I would rather have KD now than Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman, and I'd even throw in Jordan Poole. That part of it that can't logistically happen, I would be 100% on board with if it could logistically happen.
And if Stephen A. is talking about it as he was last week, we know how Stephen A. appears to be well connected with the Warriors. I don't think it's going to happen, but I still think there's a chance, JD.
All right. Still think there's a chance. A little bit. Final segment coming up, 888-957-9570. Warriors this week on a Saturday. We're having fun on 95.7 The Game.
Wow, look at these Black Friday deals on TVs. Samsung, Sony, and LG at the lowest prices of the year, even on their top-rated models. Now we can get that top-rated Samsung we were thinking about, but we'll need to get up early on Friday.
These are great deals, but why wait? Video Only has all these deals right now. We can get what we want today, and they're even offering no-interest financing.
So we can get these Black Friday deals right now at Video Only and pay it off later?
Yep, and many of their prices are better than those flyers.
Better than Black Friday? No wonder Video Only got those high scores when they rated TV stores. Let's head over now and beat the crowds.
At Video Only, you won't find huge stores with refrigerators or dishwashers, but you will find the best deals on the best TVs, sound bars, and home theater systems. Shop around, but then make sure you visit Video Only, because if you don't,
you'll be sorry.
In Mountain View, San Mateo, Union City, Dublin, and San Rafael.
Video Only.
Hi, I'm Aaron, owner of California Deluxe Windows. Ever notice? When your neighbors get new windows, there is a large black eye of broken stucco, uneven plaster, and even mismatched paint. At California Deluxe Windows, we never leave a ring around the window. Why? Because we are one of the only companies in California who custom crafts every window and door to your home's exact measurements. Almost everyone else on the radio is a distributor. They grab a window from a warehouse, break open your walls, shove it in, and patch things up. At California Deluxe Windows, we take pride in our work. Our installation technique is so precise, we do not break your stucco. Your house could be covered with potato chips, and we wouldn't crack one.
Call now, and for a limited time, you get 30% off your entire order and 24 months of interest-free financing. 800-874-3600. 800-874-3600. That's 800-874-3600. California Deluxe Windows. Windows engineered for life.
Certain terms and conditions apply. CSLB number 774518.
If you run a small business, you need the most from every investment. That's why Comcast Business gives you more, like our new gig speed Wi-Fi, plus unlimited data, all on the largest, fastest, reliable network for small businesses. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for just $49.99 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Plus, ask how to get up to a $750 prepaid card with a qualifying bundle. Ends 12/5/2022. Restrictions apply. Eco bill and auto pay required. New 50 megabits per second internet and security edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra.
You can't always see bad weather coming, so it's essential that you're able to see through it when you drive. Michelin wiper blades with advanced technology hug your windshield like a Michelin tire hugs the road, channeling away water, snow, and ice so you can see clearly, drive confidently, and breathe easy. Michelin wiper performance, clearer than ever. Upgrade to Michelin premium wipers today at Walmart, Amazon, and other fine retailers.
Hurry into Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale. Get a king bed for the price of a queen or a queen for a twin and save up to $700. Plus, get a free adjustable base with qualifying Sealy purchase. Or shop Tempur-Pedic and save $500 on select adjustable mattress sets. Plus, get a $300 instant gift. Mattresses and bases are in stock for fast delivery. With our Love Your Mattress guarantee, get the lowest price and 120 nights to sleep on it. Only at Mattress Firm. Restrictions apply. See store or mattressfirm.com for details.
Hey, it's Jonas Knox. Time for new tires? Trust the experts at TireRack.com. They've been crushing it for over 40 years. Go to TireRack.com/sports. Tell them what you drive. Try their easy-to-use tire decision guide. They'll show you the right tires for how, what, and where you drive. They've got the full line of Sumitomo tires. Test results, tire ratings, and consumer reviews. Fast free shipping and free road hazard protection. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you 24/7 with supplies and solutions for every industry and access to product specialists ready to help. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This Black Friday, where do prices dropping mean upgrade your home shopping? Lowe's actually.
Save big this holiday on some big home appliances, like a limited-time Samsung Bespoke Laundry Pair. Was $2,898, now $1,719, for a total savings of $1,179. Black Friday is here. Don't miss out on savings for the season and deals to get your whole home ready at Lowe's. Home to any possibility. Offer valid through 11/23. Exclusions apply. See store for details.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
At Harris Ranch, we do beef, just like we've done for over 50 years. Beef that's raised locally right here in California. Tender steaks, awesome burgers, and California classics like tri-tip roast. The flavor you crave, the quality you trust time after delicious time. Come on, it's time to get out and grill. Harris Ranch, we do beef. Legendary beef, legendary quality.
Here's to Prilosec OTC. Just one pill each morning and no heartburn all day. My holiday hero.
Prilosec OTC. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Final segment, John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason, 888-957-9570. Talking about the Warriors and do they have to make a move between now and the end of the season to get back to being championship caliber. Looking at the text line, Whitey, and I know you had a thought on another move that wouldn't require a trade. We were talking about Dwight Howard in the last segment, so we'll get to that in just a second. 510, if you trade for KD, you don't have a bench and a bunch of old guys. Well, the young guys aren't playing. It's hot right now anyway. The young guys aren't a part of your bench now anyway, people, because they're not playing. Jonathan Kuminga, as we've had a few people reference, actually didn't play that bad last night in his 8 minutes in the first half and had 5 rebounds and was a little bit more energetic than he has been at other times. He still didn't play in the second half. Why? Because Steve Kerr doesn't trust him. He's not part of the bench. He's playing because he has to play, but Steve Kerr does not trust him. You'd also have to rework that deal, Whitey, to where you're going to get maybe a bench player or two back from Brooklyn in addition to KD, but it just keeps coming back to the fact that the math doesn't add up for that to even be to be a potential. My point was more to say I'm done with the second part of the 2 timeline plan. Like I'm not counting on what Kuminga, Wiseman, and Moody are going to be 4 years from now. Because you know what? I'm not sure the Warriors are going to suck enough to where those guys can actually play enough to develop into that core. And so there. Rats on the table, elephant in the room addressed.
You know what would be great, and I know other people have said this since, and I think I said it to you 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, if this hypothetical trade with the Nets, which we agree, you look at the particulars, it's like, whoa, I don't know how you make that happen. But if you could if you're worried about, you trade out your young players, like, well, there goes our future. If you could get Simmons back as well, a young player like that would be a great trade because he played better last game in Portland. Again, it's really far-fetched. But if you could get a young talent like that, I mean, there's still some upside there. So I don't know. But that would be, to me, that would be something you have to really think about. Real quick on Dwight Howard, because Coach called and said, how come no one has signed Dwight Howard? Maybe the Warriors should get him. And you said, yeah, maybe, down the road. And I was like, if no one wants him, there's a reason why no one wants him. So I looked into it just a little bit, see what you think of what I found. And you guys are right. I mean, he was pretty good last year in a limited role for the Lakers and Philly. This is what Dwight Howard said to Matt Barnes in October. he said, I want to play, but at the same time, there's like no teams that really want to allow me to play. That's how I've been feeling from the last situation with the Lakers. I felt like I did enough to help them win a championship to really deserve a spot on the team and a chance to start and get big minutes, and it didn't happen. After that, I'm like, man, I don't want to have to bust my ass for another whole summer, train 3 days, go on a crazy diet, do all this bleep, and then get back to a team and sit on the bench or not get to really help somebody win. So it sounds like he's not interested in being a reserve anymore. Now, maybe he goes to Taiwan, plays great, and then he's like, okay, I'll come over and help you. But it sounds like that's the issue with Dwight Howard. He still thinks of himself as a guy who should be starting and playing big minutes.
Well, if that's the case, then you can just if that's the case, Whitey, then I'll just give it to you right here, cut and dry. We're just going to rip up that paper right now. And for those watching on YouTube and Twitch can see me rip up the paper. I'm just flinging it in the air here. Forget it then.
Yeah,
if he's unwilling if he wants to start and play legitimate minutes, then hit the pike.
That's what he's doing in Taiwan. Put up big minutes in his debut. Big minutes and big points. Monstrous debut.
I was under the impression that he would be more willing to have a limited role because he's had that role the last couple. Like who goes and plays a limited role and then at this stage of their career and believes that should give him an opportunity to start? Maybe that's part of the reason why DeMarcus Cousins doesn't have a job either.
Well, and he's also was talking about maybe I'll go to the WWF. I don't know that he really wants to play basketball as much as he wants to be a star. I don't know, and maybe he goes to Taiwan.
Too.
And maybe he decides, I'll go help you win a championship later in the year. But right now, it sounds like he's not interested in the role that we know he might be able to help the Warriors in.
888-957-9570. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here. Warriors this week. Final segment on 95.7 The Game. A lot of great conversation as we were talking about the Warriors' win over the Knicks.
Yeah.
Are they in a position now to where this translates into the road? Can it translate? Because the Warriors are 7-1 at home now, 0-8 on the road. Tomorrow's a must-win at Houston. To just make a lot of what they did better stand up. And every time you've kind of been, the Warriors turning the corner. They have won 4 out of 6. They hit you with a loss that makes you think, you know what? No, they have not turned the corner. And that would be the case if they can't somehow, some way figure out a means to beat Houston. Also discussing elephants in the room today on the show with JaMychal Green referencing the team meeting that was held. Klay Thompson also addressed it in his post-game press conference last night. Warriors had a team meeting to clear the air and discuss the elephants in the room surrounding their poor play so far this season. I think at the forefront of that, Klay Thompson's play specifically, the defensive intensity and maybe the energy of the young players or the attitude of the young players to this point. You could definitely see, knowing after the fact that the Warriors had a meeting, how it did look different. There was a concerted effort to have it look different last night.
Klay passed the ball. It looked different. Yeah.
Exactly. Klay passed the ball, and they defended at a higher level. I'm not sure how much of the defending at a higher level was the Knicks, because they did still foul and put them on the line 34 times. The Knicks are an offensively challenged team at times and easier to guard. So we've seen when the Warriors have played teams that have offensive firepower, really with the exception of the Cleveland game, teams that have offensive firepower have been able to just have their way with the Warriors to this point.
Yeah, 26 fouls is still a lot of fouls. So, right there, and you have to look at why is that. The Warriors are older. Maybe it's harder to guard. They're small. So it's difficult to defend without fouling when you're playing bigger teams. But we know Steve Kerr has been talking about how that has to improve. And some of these things, like I said, the bench wasn't great last night. They still fouled, but you don't notice those things because they won. But those are potential elephants in the room as well. The bench has to play better still, and they have to defend without fouling so much. And they only got to the line 20 times, JD. They made 11 of 20 last night. 11 out of 20. Come on.
Yeah, kind of a weird night. When you look, Steph missed a couple.
Yeah.
Last night, Wiggins had an off night, 1 of 4. Draymond and Looney, both 3 of 4. I think you'd take that from them. JaMychal Green, 2 of 3. Just looking at it, Kuminga, I guess, was 1 of 2. But I guess it was really Steph and Wiggins being 2 for 7 that threw that a little bit out of whack.
Mm-hmm. If you take out the Phoenix game, which you can't, I think things were definitely trending in the right direction. So it's a big game. This road trip is big. If they somehow win both these games, they're feeling a lot better about themselves. It's obviously difficult to do when you figure you're not going to be able to play everybody in both those games. But the Phoenix game was just weird, and maybe there's a silver lining to all that. Finally force them as an organization, as a team, to look and examine at some of these things that had been dragging them down. And we'll see long term if they've been able to put them in the rearview mirror. They just had to address some of these things. The elephants in the room. So there's some positive signs going forward here, but to the point you raised, they're 7-9 here. So you got to win these games.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about this upcoming stretch of what would be 17 games between now and Christmas when the Warriors begin a long homestand with the game against the Grizzlies, and what do the Warriors have to do over the course of these next 17 games to really set themselves up to where, all right, the season's beginning now. It's Christmas, the season's beginning, and you're not buried. Because that was the other big takeaway for me, Whitey, coming off of the Phoenix game. It was the fact that this team could get buried. Like, they're in this danger zone right now, and they've won 4 of 6 to prevent it from getting even worse. But unless you really extend that level of play over a month or more, you're gonna just hang around 500 or below. And the biggest worry that I'd have right now for the Warriors is you're 7-9, and now what if somebody has to miss a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
No, and I said it. I was having the conversation. I was eating dinner with Kareth Burke of NBC Sports Bay Area last night at the arena and before the game, and in the media room. And it's like, all right, well, what if And I said exactly. I said, well, what if Steph the next 10 games Steph's not playing? How many do they win? And the answer would be, I think she said 2 or 3. I think I said 0 or 1. And so, but either way, if you're 7-9, and then let's say you go 3-7 even. We'll play the game out. If you're 7-9 and you go 3-7, at that point you're 10-16. A third of the way through the year, that takes you 2 months to make up for, just to get back to 500. And now all of a sudden it's March, and you're basically 500.
Well, that's the other really troubling thing about the fact that the bench hasn't been as productive. At some point, hopefully not, but you may need some of those guys on the bench to step in as starters to hold things down for a stretch if somebody gets hurt or something. And right now, that's a scary proposition. But, fingers crossed. Hopefully you won't have to deal with that. Let me ask you this, if I may. From the Phoenix game, what was the most disturbing or alarming to you, and what was the most positive thing about what you saw last night? So both sides. Phoenix game, what was the worst thing you saw from the Warriors? What was the best sign for you based on last night's win?
There was a lack of competitiveness, I thought, in Phoenix, other than Steph. It was Steph versus the world, and nobody else really was. It just felt like they were going through the motions defensively, just lackluster. It was a lackluster Wiggins game. It was a lackluster Draymond game. And I'm thinking national TV against a team that just thumped you a couple of weeks ago in that same building. I was not anticipating that game to feel like a pickup game, especially, and maybe part of that was because the Suns did have some players out, and the Warriors thought that they could walk in there and win it 130-125. Shame on them if they felt that way. But yeah, the lack of competitiveness, and I thought there was visible frustration in that game of players toward other players, to where it was like, oh, there is some internal bleep going on here. And Kerr addressed it afterwards, the fact that, there's some stuff that I don't want to talk about in a press conference that we're going through, and that has to get fixed, and it's on me as the coach to try and fix it. And it was more personality-based than basketball-based. And so if they cleared the air about that stuff yesterday, then it's not crazy to understand why they had to clear the air after the way that it looked against the Suns. As far as what did you like about last night, I liked the fact that for the first time this season, Klay Thompson looked like he was comfortable playing the right way. I don't think at any point this year Klay Thompson has looked like a player that wanted to play the right way.
He was so happy after that first quarter. He was so happy.
Yeah, and it was just, but it was happy not because he was making shots. It was. I mean, I guess maybe that was part of it, but it was he made a conscious effort to not take every bleeping shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most important thing to come out of last night for me was the fact that it looked like, you know what it looked like, Whitey? It looked like somebody finally said to Klay, chill out, dude. You're killing us.
Yeah.
And it's ticking us off.
Uh-huh.
Because there had been this cloak of like everybody was afraid to say, Klay, you stink. Do it differently.
Right.
And then maybe you'll stink less.
Yeah.
You know,
he needs to find his way. He needs to find his way through this. Yeah. It's like, dude, that ain't the way.
Hey, dude.
Yeah.
Pass the rock.
Right.
And you'll get it back. And take 15 or 16 shots instead of 22.
Yeah. To me, the most discouraging thing about the Phoenix game was the fact that Coach Kerr had to, for the first time as a Warrior coach, tell his team to play together and play harder. That's stunning. And then the most encouraging thing was last night, to the point you made, Warriors, especially offensively, it's like the shots were evenly distributed, balanced scoring, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures. It was Warrior basketball. So to see them go from the most un-Warrior-like moment of Steve Kerr's reign to getting right back to, oh, yeah, we haven't seen that in a while. That's Warrior basketball in the very next game. I thought that was really encouraging.
John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason here. Final couple of minutes on 95.7 The Game. The 415, I want to run this one by you. They bring up Miles Turner as the ideal trade target. Mobile, shot blocker, three-point shot. He could help the Warriors contend with Memphis and Denver and the rest of the best in the West. What do you think?
He's not a great rebounder, right? He's a good player. I think he'd be a nice addition. Comes down to what you'd give up for him. So my question, JD, is what do you think it's reasonable to expect as far as how other teams, maybe San Antonio if you talk about Pirtle, or maybe Indiana with Miles Turner, is Wiseman still something that other teams may see as, ooh, yeah, we like that?
Wait, say that again, Wiseman?
Do you think other teams, if you're going to trade with somebody, maybe Indiana for Turner, do you think other teams could look at Wiseman and say, yeah, well, that's an asset that we'd be interested in?
I do think, Whitey, that other teams would be interested in Wiseman as a developmental project. Like I don't think Wiseman is never going to be good. I question whether he can be good with the Warriors in the context of this situation that they have. If the Warriors were Orlando or Charlotte or the Rockets or the Pistons, I guess Charlotte's trying to be better, but if they were a bottom feeder younger team that was basically, hey, young guys play, we don't care if we win, then I wouldn't be worried about Wiseman. But this team would also be, 3-13 right now, because and everybody would be okay with it because it would be about developing the younger players. So the problem though is even those teams that would be interested in Wiseman moving forward, they know that the value has gone down. So they're going to want him. And I could see a handful of teams that really want Wiseman, but they're like, we can get him for nothing because the Warriors have, I don't want to say bungled it, but he's played so poorly, and now they're sending him down to the G League.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it look like, even though we know it's not true, they're done with him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can see how a team would say he's still got tremendous upside. If he plays well at the G League, I think his value starts to tick back up in the right direction. But draft picks are so valuable now, and he's almost still, I don't think it's hard to imagine another team looking at him and going, he's basically a draft pick. He's very young. He's hardly played. Yeah, it hasn't gone well, but he's played so little that he still has tremendous upside. And as I said earlier, I still think that's the best course of action for the Warriors. But if you could, like I said, I think right now I'd prefer something with Jakob Poeltl and Miles Turner. But I mean, either one of those guys would be, I think, a terrific help right now.
You'd give up what? Would you give up what? See, I don't, to me, and I think a lot of Warrior fans would go crazy on this. Would you give up Wiseman for Poole? I know that financially they're making basically the same amount of money, so it does work from that. Like, to me, if the Warriors tomorrow traded James Wiseman for Jakob Poole, I think people would be like, "Oh my God!" Like that's all you could get for James Wiseman.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I'd hesitate is because I think Poeltl's a free agent after this year. So if you didn't have an idea whether you could keep him, I'd be reluctant to. But otherwise, I think Poeltl would make you. I mean, Wiseman can't even be on your team right now. Poeltl's having a good year. I think you would improve so much. I think just by making that move, that yes, I would do that in a heartbeat, and I think it would really improve your chances to be a legitimate contender this year.
I think it would make you better this year for sure. I just think it's a
tough sell. I know that people would go nuts.
Maybe I shouldn't look at it that way, but I think in the court of public opinion, would look embarrassing.
Yeah, you're right. Like, it would be an admission of like, we blew that. Basically, you say, "Hey, we blew it on Wiseman. Sorry."
Yeah. Now, if you trade him for Miles Turner, I think that's a little different. Mm-hmm. And I know you'd have to give up more than just Wiseman if you were going to get Miles Turner. That would not be a 1-for-1.
Is he also a free agent to be?
Type of deal. I'd have to look at that. I could be wrong. I thought he signed. Let me look at that here. I thought he signed a longer-term deal, but it might be up already because we've talked about it for such a long time. Yeah, he is a free agent.
Yeah, so
he's making $17.5 million.
Yeah.
Now, and it's funny. I feel like we've been talking about Miles Turner for 3 years, and
I know
and that would make sense because he signed a 4-year, $70 million contract going back to 2019. That first pandemic year was now 3 seasons ago. It's kind of hard.
Wow, man,
hard to. Feels like yesterday, Whitey.
Yeah. Poeltl, I think, fits in some ways better than Turner, although Turner is widely seen as a much better player with what the Warriors do with their centers. But either one of them, I think, would be a huge improvement over where the Warriors are right this second.
Yeah, I think so far so good as far as, it's one game, but the Warriors, it looked like, hey, the meeting worked, at least for one game, but the question now becomes, all right, so how long does that wind up lasting for the Warriors as far as their, new look, let's say, and what does this team have to do moving forward? Because I think you could look at the demotion, and it is a demotion. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, James, you can say it's not a demotion and try to look at it that way. It's a demotion. Like, he got sent to the minor leagues to work on his game. Like, that's what it is. There's no shame in it, but let's also not try to act like it's something that it's not. He got demoted for the time being. Accept it, own it, get better from it. Like, all of those things can still happen, but I feel like that demotion is really the first time where it's like, you know what, if you are going to have to make a move, he may need to be the first move that you look to make, and then that gets into these trade scenarios that could wind up appearing as underwhelming. Whitey, final thought, man, we're already done. Wow.
Final thought is the Warriors are finally going to win a road game against the Rockets, and everything is trending in the right direction now. The bar has been lower this year, but they are going to have to make a move or two if they're going to have a chance to actually contend for another championship this year.
Yeah, fun week ahead with the Warriors and Rockets tomorrow, and then the Pelicans Monday, and then a couple of good teams coming to chase, the Clippers and the Jazz surrounding the Thanksgiving holiday, so looking forward to that. Whitey, great stuff. We'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it.
For Sterling Bennett, appreciate everybody that watched us on YouTube and Twitch this morning, in addition to listening to us on 95.7 The Game and the app. We'll talk to you next Saturday. I'm back tomorrow with Warriors Live at 3 o'clock for the Warriors and the Rockets. Fox Sports Radio next, right here on 95.7 The Game.
Black Friday is coming, and that's the smart time to shop for a top-rated TV from Samsung, LG, or Sony. But why wait? You can get those Black Friday TV deals right now at Video Only, and then enjoy Thanksgiving with your new TV. Still want to wait? Then how about better than Black Friday deals? The top-rated TVs at stupid low prices. Check out Video Only now before the rush, or you'll be sorry.
At Harris Ranch, we do beef, just like we've done for over 50 years. Beef that's raised locally right here in California. tender steaks, awesome burgers, and California classics like tri-tip roast. The flavor you crave, the quality you trust time after delicious time. Come on, it's time to get out and grill. Harris Ranch, we do beef. Legendary beef, legendary quality.
Homeowners are choosing the beauty of mill